What we do here is go back. What we do here is go back.
Good evening. Hopefully this is working. Essentially it is. 1, 2, yes. Motion blur acceptable. Just had a super chat come in. Thank you very much, Mick Woods. Let's click on that. Is that actually going to work? Yeah, that worked as well. Awesome stuff. Good evening. Mike here, Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To. It is Saturday the 19th of August 2023. And what a week we've had. It's been all good video and sound. Excellent. Thank you for that. Yeah, I should check actually. Make sure everything is working. Well, there's some music coming out from somewhere, but I don't know where if it's come out. Oh, I know what I've done. I've been doing a monitor review and I've realised that all of my sound settings are completely wrong. So bear with me one moment. Where is my video output going to? I want it to go to that one there. That should be okay. Does that work now? That works now. Awesome. I can be happy in my life. Oh no, that's the wrong button. What's going on? Overhead, is that working? Yes, and that appears to be lag and stutter free. Excellent stuff. Good. And the desktop. Let's see if I can get the desktop to work. Also, can you hear me actually while I'm saying this? If someone could let me know, desktop, overhead sound is okay. That would be much appreciated. Nick Byron says perfect. Ugly Bob's coming in a super chat there. Send £10 super chat. Happy 11th birthday to Eva. Oh, happy birthday, Eva. I wasn't sure if it was today. Is it today?
I think it is.
I'm not sure. Alright, says yes, okay. Thank you.
Oh, this is birthday, sorry.
That's right, I didn't hear a thing. Desktop, what was I doing? So there's a desktop, can you see the desktop? Yeah, excellent stuff, that is working, good. Let's go back to the main camera. It's all gone dark, turning the lights off. Thank you, Ugly Bob, for that. We'll have to find some way of passing that on. Or whatever. For those of you that are new here and don't know what is going on, you're not alone. I'm in the same boat. Eva is or Ava, how would you pronounce it? Ava, I don't know. Ava is the young girl that we've been trying to get together a gaming PC for. She's not been particularly well, rather unwell, let's say, hospitalised and all that kind of stuff, and is actually a kind of, I won't say close friend, I'm not sure how I would describe it, but Colin Hilton, who is a regular of the channel, and some of you in the Discord will already have known him. Basically, it's someone that he knows quite well. Young girl, not been well. The mum and basically the family wanted to do something nice for her, get a gaming PC, and yeah, basically try and make a young girl who's not been very well, make her feel a little bit better. And we are currently in the process of doing that. We've had some very kind donations in from various members of the community. I would probably best not say exactly who at the moment, but for those of you that have donated already, you know exactly who you are.
Sorry.
Go on.
Directly through Colin, because otherwise taxes.
Yes, that's a good point, yeah. If you are wanting to make donations, ideally if you can, make them directly to Colin or get in contact with Colin directly. Otherwise, because it goes through the kind of the whole YouTube roundabout, business taxes and YouTube obviously take their cut as well. So if you do want to help out, do get in contact with Colin, and maybe, I don't know what you can do, send a PayPal or something along those lines, or just send an actual item should you wish to. Colin actually came down to visit us this week on Thursday. This week's been a mad week. It's been very much a roller coaster ride. I'll explain more about that shortly. So Colin came down to visit on Thursday. We said we'd pick up some bits, and he actually brought down some bits for us to check out as well. Some bits that he wasn't using or wanted to kind of pass on to the channel, etc. It's a long story, but basically he came down, had a visit. Lovely bloke. Got him some lemon drizzle cake. We do like lemon drizzle cake. Had a cup of tea, had a natter, and spent some quality time with young Colin, and it was very enjoyable. So yeah, much appreciated. It's always nice to meet one of the Mub family. What can I say? So yeah, we're putting together a PC, the whole kit and caboodle. Some of the other contributors at the moment, big shout out to Thermaltate UK and Adam specifically, who's been absolutely amazing and has donated. Currently, as we speak, I believe we are with a Series 300 case, a Tough Power 1200 watt gold rated power supply, possibly a bunch of fans, I'm not entirely sure, I think it was. A Tough Liquid Ultra cooler. I think there was something else as well. I can't remember. My brain is an absolute mess at the moment. But along with that, we've also, myself and Kath have donated some bits and pieces, some RAM, a unicorn. I should actually say, a bit of a shout out to William Bodie as well, because William Bodie last Christmas sent myself and Kath some little cuddly toys. One of which was a unicorn, and actually we were going through our cupboards because we had to do something upstairs with where the Christmas stuff is stored, and that was out. We were looking at it, and I just thought of Eva. I thought, kind of like a young girl at that. A unicorn is one of those kind of fluffy gifts that you like to give. So I thought, well, rather than Kath have to wait all year, it'd be a nice gift to pass on. So William, I hope you don't mind me pass that on. Yeah, anyway, so just trying to do some nice things for someone who's in need, ultimately. So it's always a nice thing to do, to give something back where at all possible. To be honest with you, we could do more. Potentially we might do. I've got the G-Master Red Eagle monitor, which I've actually just finished reviewing today. I've sent an email. I was going to say I've spoken to iiyama. I haven't spoken to them as of yet. I've sent an email on Friday. No reply as of yet, but the intention is, if we can, if they're okay with it, then we will donate the 165 Hz IPS 1080p monitor to the gaming bundle, and yeah, hopefully it will be put to good use, rather than potentially sat here in a box until I find somewhere to use it. So anyway, that is awesome. Again, just trying to help out someone. Milch Monsters coming with a super chat. I knew this was going to happen. I've kind of been waiting for this. Yo Mike, your thoughts on LTT? We'll come to that shortly. There's other things I want to talk about first, but we will get round to discussing that in some aspects. I don't really want to get too deep into it because there's going to be a lot of people that are not interested at all.
Me.
Kath for one. There's going to be a lot of people who are very interested and almost concerned about what it means for the rest of the tech community, etc., etc. So yes, we will obviously have to acknowledge that in some way, shape or form. I think that is that kind of goes without saying, really. I had planned to do that, so we will do that. There was another super chat coming as well. Oh, that was Ugly Bob. Thank you, Ugly Bob. Bless your heart. He's a lovely man. Ugly Bob is also donating... Oh, I shouldn't have said Ray. Ugly Bob is also donating some bits and pieces as well that I kind of know about. Don't know what it is, but Bob being Bob's done some stuff. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember rightly, Skystalker has also sent in a donation as well. Just the names come off the top of my head. Possibly there's other of you that have done as well. Like I said, ideally, if you do want to help out this young girl, just get in contact with Colin Hilton on our Discord, or potentially you can see him in our chat, etc. He has got his own YouTube channel, so maybe if you want to, you can reach out to him in that way. Just search for Colin Hilton on YouTube. He's got some driving videos and stuff like that, so go along, give him a subscribe, chuck a couple of likes on, watch a couple of videos, and if you want to, get in contact with him directly if you feel that you could help out in some way. That would be awesome, much appreciated. It's a little bit of a, I wouldn't say it's a mess, but it's a little bit of a kind of all over the place thing, because it's Colin and his friend over in Florida, Super G-Man, I can't remember. It's one of those two. He's also another YouTuber in Florida, and they know each other. They basically do good deeds for people in need.
Bob's put the link for his YouTube.
Bob's put the link in there. Thank you, Bob. So, awesome stuff. That is great. It's good to help out, and they're doing it on both sides of the pond. So for our kind of American viewers, there's someone over there looking out for people, and obviously over here as well. So yeah, it's a really nice thing to do. Not so nice things that happened this week as well, which is why this show is basically completely unplanned at all. Don't even have my piece of paper this week, which is a nightmare. My list. I've got a list, but not a list. Unfortunately, this week one of our cats has gone to the big kitty litter in the sky. That's a terrible thing to say. Yeah, Daisy, our poor cat, 15 years old. She's been with us for 15 years, forever, from very young as a kitten. Sadly, she passed away this week. So yeah, it's been a tough time. We all miss her, and especially the kids more so, I think. Kath probably more so than me, because most of the time over those 15 years, probably a good half of it, I was spent basically out working. So Kath was the one here pretty much kind of all day with the cats. Same for the kids to some extent as well. So yeah, for them it's actually hit me quite hard as well. I was actually surprised. I didn't think I was going to be quite so affected by it, but now, like, this was on Thursday. Wednesday. So it was quite a kind of, she got quite ill on Wednesday afternoon, went to the vets, and kind of that was it. So it was very much a short, sharp shock, which I think is, you kind of expect it when your pets get a little bit elderly, and especially if they're not particularly well. She wasn't very well around Christmas time, so we kind of, you almost think that you're on borrowed time to some extent, but you never kind of expect it when your pet gets really ill and it's got to the point where there's basically nothing that can be done. It's all in the hands of the big man upstairs. So unfortunately, yeah, Daisy, bless her heart, no longer with us, but always in our hearts. And we buried her at home here in the Mub Garden. Got some flowers. Actually, one of Angel's friends sent some flowers in, which was lovely. So we've put a little, not a memorial, but basically where she is laying in rest, so to speak. We've done a little thing with the flowers there and some stones. So yeah, it's just a nice way. We can look out the garden, look up to the flowers, and remember Daisy and all the cool things that she did and all the nice little quirks about that little cat. But yeah, anyway, she is gone, unfortunately. So yes,
We have our live stream to remember her by.
yeah,
When she peed on George's case.
that's true. Yeah, she peed on George's case in a live stream.
Not in a live stream, but we did it.
Yeah, we cleaned it, didn't we? Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about that. Right. Anyway, so Arletta says a dog killed one of my ducks yesterday. I thought about cooking. Oh God. So yeah, there you go. That is why this week has been a little bit kind of, yeah, it's been one of those weeks, you know, it's kind of like you get into a routine of doing things and then something comes along and kind of rocks your world a bit. It's been a week, a weird week, all in all, and obviously we probably will now address the big elephant in the room, and that is why I've got gold bars on the desk. This was actually a stupid thing. We went shopping to get some tea before we started the stream, and these were on the reduced shelf. So these are actually gold bars, but inside it is some kind of cast sand things, which you basically open up. I think there's like a hammer and like a little shovel of some sort. So you basically break it down. Potentially you could find real gold in these here boxes, or you can find gems. It's by a company called Mine It Gold, and there's also, because we've got two gold ones, Kath being Kath, diamond one. So
My best friend.
there were the two is a well, it's one of those stories. You know what it's like. You pick something off the shelf and you think, yeah, I'll go with that one. So I put it in the basket, completely like brain dead, and then picked up another one. Went to put it in the basket and it's like, oh, I've already got one.
No, I think I put it in.
Now which one do I put back?
I think
Because
put
if
one in.
I open this one and it doesn't have anything in it, I'll be thinking, I bet it was in the other one. So that was the point where we decided that we should just buy both. You never know. So potentially, yeah, rare earth gems, or potentially even some little bit of gold. A very small bit of gold, obviously, because they don't cost very much. A couple of quid, that sort of thing. And the same for the diamond one, you might get a miniature diamond in there. I'm guessing if it's so cheap, the diamond is going to be very, very small. So not very good for my sausage-like fingers. So there you go, Bob. That is what is in the gold boxes. And that says condolences for your poor kitty. Thank you very much, Aletta. Michael C says, Mike raided the Cadbury Old Gold Chocolate Factory. If only. Nick Barnes says, very sad news indeed. Sorry for your loss. Photo on Discord, lovely tribute. Yeah. It's yeah, it's been one of those bizarre weeks. Trying to get stuff done, and today, and actually yesterday, I was trying to do the monitor review. For some reason, the old AM5 system, the gremlins have kicked in once again, and it was getting to the point where it was just in a constant reboot loop. All because I plugged in a monitor. That upset it immensely. So I went through all the usual troubleshooting things, take the graphics card out. I did actually find one of the cables, the HDMI cables, appeared to have, how shall I put it? No, there's no way of putting it. Poppy-sized teeth marks in the cable. HDMI cables, obviously because they carry digital information, if you break the cables down or they get broken down, it breaks up the signal. Now, potentially that might have been something to do with it. I'm not entirely sure, but anyway, so fortunately, a little while back, I think it was either Ugly Bob or actually Skystalker again, who sent us some HDMI cables. They might have both done actually at some point, because I've always having problems with HDMI cables or DisplayPort cables. So fortunately, dug out one of those ones which was donated, plugged it in, and now at least we have some picture, which is good. Very enjoyable. We like to have some picture. Clear, that's what I want to do. And hopefully the picture is okay. What is the actual visual quality like at the moment? This is a 1080p stream, and currently the colours look really saturated on there. But I know that the actual signal that comes out to you guys, does it look more saturated than usual? I've actually made some slight adjustments to the camera today in order to be able to film a monitor and actually get accurate colours, or at least some of the kind of the richness of IPS, you know, IPS panels, they pop with colour rather than VA panels, and obviously TM panels that look pretty dire at times. So I've actually reduced the something.
Apart from that, the picture's good.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, that'll do.
That's ugly, Bob.
Anyway, so hopefully it looks all right. And I've actually just experimenting with H.265 encoding. So this is AMD's H.265 encoding. So it's 5 megabytes upload. So in theory, you should be getting a better picture because it compresses more than H2 and whatever. Hopefully it just looks okay. Riley says looks good, and natural saturation to me. The thing which always I notice is the blue for the Superman logo. So this is actually quite a rich blue, but on a lot of the times on the stream it doesn't look it. That looks, it looks quite pale, a bit washed out on there. So maybe I still need to do some work on that. I always struggle to get the color accuracy right. Nick Barnes says, damn, was darker than normal, but just clicked. I just checked and 720p. Much better in 1080p. Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. Lucky Man says, tis all good my end. Excellent stuff. So let's say hello to some of you that are in the chat, because I often forget to do that. So I'm a bad person. So Rick H is with us. Even though, hope everyone had a good week. Ours wasn't great, but well, it was good and bad. We had some high points, like obviously Colin coming to visit. That was fantastic, and yeah, all that stuff. Getting the bits and pieces from thermal tape for the build, etc. That was really good. The other stuff was a bit crap. Mark Barry is with us. How you doing, Mark? William Bodie. Good evening to you. A rally. Ooh, mining for gold. Stuart Cleary. How you doing, Stuart? Jason Woods as well. How you doing, Jason? What else we got? Blah, 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 blah. Looking down. Is there any new faces? Or anyone that I haven't said hello to? There probably is. Wild Bill. Wild Bill. How you doing? Greetings, Kath Mike and the Peanut Gallery. Bless your heart. Mick Woods as well. Thank you again for the super chats. Just finished our Chinese takeaway, so must explore the fridge for a beer to wash it down. Trouble is with Chinese takeaway, it's great, and you like stuff yourself with it, and then about half an hour later, it's like, I'm hungry. I could eat that all over again. Obviously, you wouldn't, because otherwise you'd end up like Kim Jong-un. Rick H, I eat meat, but I identify as vegan. That's the way forward, I think. Ugly Bob says, at work, we were told to put our oh God. I hate the whole This is going to probably upset people, but honestly, I don't care. The whole pronouns thing, I don't understand it. I really don't. Maybe I'm just of that age. I don't know whether it's even important. Maybe it is for some people. I don't know. I've never been bothered by it. Someone calls me Mike, I don't care if they call me Mr., Mrs. I have been called Mrs. Mike once or twice, and that's fine. I don't mind.
No, I get called Mrs. Mike.
Yeah, you get called Mrs. Mike. So that's not... Well, they're gendering you correctly, they're just naming you completely wrong. But then you are technically, from like how things used to be, we would be known as Mr. and Mrs. Mike Churchill, wouldn't we? Or Mr. and Mrs. M. Churchill. So technically them calling you Mrs. Mike is kind of right in a weird way. Yeah, that's fine. I've never been worried about being called anything, to be honest with you. Luckily, because having a YouTube channel, you get called all sorts. Mostly it's all nice stuff though. That's good. Anyway, so Ugly Bob, at work we were told we had to put our pronouns on our email signatures. Mine are ugly/cuddly. I was asked to change them, so I accused them of trying to oppress me. I think you're being oppressed, Bob, and I wholeheartedly endorse your choice of pronouns, even though I don't think they're valid or necessary. But if you want to be that, you go for it. Ugly Bob says so now it's optional. Excellent. Jason Woods says, I identify as black and white, so call me grey. If it works, hey, why not? Ugly Bob says, according to the Victoria sponge cake I've just demolished, I identify as a family of 4. Good on you.
Not Paul Hollywood. Sorry, it's the Victoria sponge.
Matthew Day, nearly late, firing up the microwave. Good stuff. Our letter says, hello, hello, hello. No storms to knock me offline like last week. Yeah, it's been a little bit, well, I wouldn't say stormy, but it's not typical summer here at the moment in the UK. For those of you who are watching or listening.
UK summer.
Oh, actually, talking of listening, I should mention as well, I've done something yesterday, I think. I'm not entirely sure. I think I have done something. I think that means now you can actually enjoy, in inverted commas, you can now enjoy the Mike's Unboxing live stream as a podcast from Google Music. On YouTube Music, sorry.
I thought you were going to say they could enjoy a good night's sleep by putting that on.
Yeah, so if you're struggling to get to sleep, it may be the beneficial thing to do. I'm not sure if it actually works. I enabled it yesterday, and I added all of our live streams to a playlist. So potentially if you've got like 240 odd hours available and you just want to listen to this, then you can. But actually, if anyone can tell me if it is actually, if they can find it, if you go to YouTube Music and just search for Mike's Unboxing live streams and see if you can actually find it. For some reason yesterday it just had exclamation marks by it. Don't know whether that means it's just rubbish and they're not putting it on, or it's processing, I don't know. Maybe it is. Who knows? No doubt we'll find out in good time.
You identify as invisible, don't you?
I identify as invisible when I'm on the podcast, and my pronouns are who, what, where. Pete Unwin's with us. How you doing, Pete Unwin? Tony says, just pop in and say hello. Got a football match to watch. Hope you're all well. Might see you later. Be good. We'll do our best. Can't guarantee it. Anyway, so I think that is pretty much everyone. Gary Matthews says, hi there. How you doing? Gaming since 1981. My kind of person. Have you really been gaming since 1981? I think I've been gaming since probably then, roughly. I'm trying to think what my first actual electronic game was. I'm pretty sure it would have been a handheld such as Donkey Kong, the little Namco one which flipped open, or possibly even the single screen Mario Bros one.
Those Tomy things on your eyes.
The Tomy 3D thing that you put against your eyes, that I think was a similar sort of time. Or Astro Wars. Remember the grandstand Astro Wars?
I loved that.
That was great.
But I had it late.
And there was Scramble as well.
In the attic.
What was Scramble? Was that grandstand as well? That Scramble was the sideways one, wasn't it? Where you had the shooting across and the bombs. Astro Wars was a forward-facing one, wasn't it? Like Star Wars. Not Star Wars, like Space Invaders. It probably was a Space Invaders claim, actually. Anyway. Moving on. Alexa says, my first computer game was Pong, Square Ball. Oh yeah, there was a... I'm pretty sure there was a Texas Instruments 6-in-1. And it was like Pong, 2-player Pong. Possibly a shooting game?
What was that thing we had? It was like a little TV screen of a...
Vectrex.
Yeah.
Vectrex. That's worth a fortune now. Vader Racing VR. Been gaming since the 80s with the Commodore 64. Yeah, Kath had a Commodore 64. I was more of a Spectrum person. So I had I had the ZX81. Never had a ZX80. I had a ZX81, then moved from a ZX81 through various things. Eventually then kind of settled on the Spectrum 48K Plus. Because it had a nicer keyboard. I didn't like the rubber keyboard. There we go. Let's see what else we've got. Astro Wars yet. TV Gamer cartridges. Good stuff. Wild Bill says, mine was Doom on a 286 in 1995. Lucky Man's there with a ZX Spectrum as well. I actually do love some of that slightly older retro stuff. It's very interesting. There's a lot of channels like there. Adrian's Digital Basement is one which I quite like watching. Although to be fair, I do like watching it when I'm going to sleep. It does help me kind of gently fall back into my retro years while sleeping, like that. Richard says, Atari 2600 here with a dodgy power supply. Sometimes took half an hour of switching on off to work. Oh god, yeah. These big pole switches, toggle switches, and it was like, get it right into the position. God, bloody work. Now the reset button, so if an animal walked past it and it stood on it, it's like reset your work. Oh my god, I just got to level 5000 on Pac-Man and you've reset it. Absolutely horrendous. Vic 20, I think Commodore 60, no. Yeah, Vic 20 was the first of my Commodore type computers. I actually really like that, the Vic 20. My neighbours had a... Yeah, they had a Vic 20 as well, but they had the RAM pack. So every now and then I'd borrow the RAM pack so I could play some of the good games. Good stuff. Milk's Monster says, remember my Intel 486 days? I think when it comes to computers, actual like real IBM compatibles, we had a 386 SX33 to begin with. That was our first one. How things have changed. Arguably they were more reliable back then and potentially easier to fix. Mark Braces had 3 ZX81s. None of them seemed to work. Always ended up going back to the shop.
Our local, what was it called then? Powerhouse, I think, wasn't it?
What, in Fish Ponds?
Yeah.
Mm.
They actually knew my mum by name for the amount of time she took the computer back. It was the Acorn when we had to after school.
You can imagine that when you get to the point.
And as soon as she walked in the door, they'd be like, no, Mrs. Beeb.
Yeah.
Not you again.
Wild Bill says, I was living in Zimbabwe and games were non-existent. Yeah, there was quite a healthy community in the UK in the mid-80s of people who were basically buying tape-to-tape ghetto blasters or hi-fi equipment and just ripping tapes. It was definitely a thing. I think that was actually very much like Windows 95. the lack of piracy protection was what actually stimulated the whole growth of the computer industry. 100% I would say that is the thing, because it was so easy back in the day. Go to the local HMV shop or even Poundland, those types of things.
They didn't have Poundland in these
Well,
days.
15 and 20p shop or whatever it was back then. And you could go in there, buy a pack of tapes, cheap tapes,
Collins in.
C30s, C60s, C90s, whatever. And you could essentially put on a whole bunch of games on there and then do whatever with it. Sell them, trade them, loan them, whatever you wanted to do. It was very easy to do.
Reloading them because they didn't work.
Yeah.
Collins in. If
Hello, Colin. How you doing? Hello, Tristan G.
can he?
David Thompson as well. How you doing?
Has he got to say where to contact him or anything?
Not too sure. Not too sure. Colin, just to keep you up to speed, we mentioned about Eva earlier on in the stream, and mentioned that if people want to make any donations or anything, ideally best thing to do is directly get in contact with you either via the Discord or head over to your YouTube channel and potentially contact you through there, rather than us having to pay kind of taxes or YouTube collateral tax for processing, etc. Just thought I'd let you know that.
Does he want to put in any contact details?
Yeah, if you want to put in any contact details, you're more than welcome to do. Email addresses or whatever. Yeah, make Colin a moderator. UK Miners Club had said something. There we go. UK Miners Club. How would you rate EVGA 600 watt W1 PSU? Looking for a new PSU for my server. It depends what your server is and how much value it has, I suppose. Not that there's actually anything wrong with the EVGA 600 watt W1. I've used them before, and I think I've used the 500 watt as well. I think we reviewed it ages ago. At the moment in the UK, let me know if this is the same actually elsewhere around the world. I'd be very interested to know, because in the UK at the moment we are absolutely screwed when it comes to power supplies. I actually went to, I think it was eBuyer. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was eBuyer, and I did a search for power supplies between 500 and 700 watts, and the search returned 0. They didn't have a power supply in stock between 500 watts and 700 watts. That's where things have gotten to. Most of the budget power supplies that were available in the market are completely gone, or the ones that are still available have jacked their prices up immensely. A power supply which would have been 25-30 quid a few months ago is now 45-50 quid. It's got really bad for power supplies. I don't know why it is. Maybe, again, if you're in the chat and you know why this is, or you've got an inkling why it is, please do let us know, because I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are. My thoughts are it's all a kind of kickback from what's been happening in the European area. I don't want to say it. You know what I mean. What's been going on there. And also, obviously, what happened 3 years previous. I think all of that now, all the shutdown of manufacturing, the price increases, etc., is all kind of culminated to basically us now being kind of screwed in terms of building sort of more cost-effective computers.
Or anything.
Yeah, or anything for that matter.
Eating.
Yeah, eating. So UK Miners Club says an EVGA 600 watt W1 is 45 quid. That's mental, isn't it? It really is insane. A white rated power supply, not even a bronze, for 45 quid. It's got EVGA branding. I think it's still got a 2-year warranty on it. I think maybe 1 year. I'm not entirely sure. It's not good value for money, but in terms of what is currently available on the market, it kind of is what it is. Myself personally, at the moment, on the kind of the budget end of things, I'm really happy with the GameMax Rampage range. They do a 500, 600, 750 and 850, I think. Those, for me, have been really good. They're bronze rated, only a 1-year warranty, but they do seem to be actually pretty well constructed. So in terms of GameMax's previous power supplies, some of the other ones are a bit ropey, but the Rampage range do appear to be kind of half decent. So depending what's available in your area, You said there for the 600W1 is 45 quid. Do a search for Rampage 600 watt and see what comes up. I'm pretty sure it's going to be about the same price, but I would argue it's going to be a better unit, bronze efficiency, rather than the
Below that, he's
thing.
got Ryzen 5600X, 64 gigabyte of RAM, 4 HDD. Don't know if that makes a difference.
I haven't even seen that. Where is that?
That's dying a bit.
I'm on live chat, but it's not showing me that.
That's above Pete Unwin, and below a letter, I for one like EVGA PSUs.
Ah, right, sorry, I've scrolled down too far. Got you. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, 5600X, 64 gigs of RAM, 4 hard disk drives. Either of them should be fine. I would... It depends how much load is going to be on it as well. It's a tough one.
The max 600 watt Rampage is 44 and 700 watt is 45.99.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I would go with the... well, for the extra £2, I'd go for the 700 watt. At least that's going to give you a little bit of a buffer there as well. Unless it's got the giggles. Oh dear. Someone needs to remove the tickling stick.
Can you go up a little bit gaming since?
Gaming since. I heard graphics cards are going to get short due to Nvidia and others using the chips.
Supply.
Yeah, short supply for AI. Yeah, that's exactly true. Nvidia have already canned a lot of the lines. The 300 series is basically, I think, the 3060 Ti. Not entirely sure about that actually. The 3060, I think, and the 3060 12 gig is still being produced. I think the 3060 Ti as well to some extent, but I believe the 3070, 3080, 3090 all completely decommissioned now. So you're not going to see any of those. In terms of obviously 4000 series, they're still making those, but in lesser numbers because obviously they're not selling as much as they would. Although they are selling some of them, but to AI companies, which, yeah. So it's that perfect storm that they're self-generating again. So because people aren't buying them, they reduce the output, and because there's demand from AI companies, they're going to buy them up. It's basically, it's mining 2.0 or 3.0 because we went through mining twice. So yeah, this is basically the GPU shortage again, which should be good actually because AMD cards are notoriously crap for AI, so there should be a lot of AMD cards on the market, which is always handy.
500 watt is 33.99 and postage on both box and CCL.
There you go. The Rampage 500, I actually need to buy a couple of them. As much as they've been really good to us actually, GameMax over the years, sending us bits and pieces. But when it comes to the power supplies, I know that we've done the review on the 500 watt. I've bought a few more as well since then. I find them really good power supplies, and like I've said before, I wouldn't do a review on a product and endorse it as much as I do unless I actually bought them myself. And for the Rampage 500 specifically, yeah, that's one that I will buy time and time again whenever it's available. Recently it's been creeping up to like $39.99, so I've been a bit holding off. But at $33.99, it beats the Cylon by a mile. The AeroCool Cylon, of which you can't really get, and also the AeroCool Integrator isn't as good as the Rampage 500. So yeah, $33.99. If that's with postage from Box, well, Box and CCL are the same company anyway. For those who didn't know that, Box and CCL are the same company. So yeah, that's actually not a bad price. It'd be nice to see it as like $29.99, but $33.99 with postage. If it was on Amazon, I'd snap them up straight away.
Go down a little bit, Richard again.
Richard, MSI Mag A550BN, 550 watt bronze is only $42.99 plus postage on CCL. That's not too bad. Yeah, the postage on those, I think if it works out roughly about $49.99, I think was about the cheapest I could get the MSI Mag B550BNs for. I might grab one of those actually as well, see what they're like. It's a little bit more than I'd like to pay for a 550 bronze, but...
It says plus postage on both box and CCL, so...
Ah, right, okay.
I think we got that wrong. Plus free postage
right, okay.
reason,
Yeah.
And then UK minus 12% isn't showing free postage.
Colin Hilton has said there at Mike's Unboxing, I am overwhelmed with yours and this great community of support in my endeavour to grant Eva's wish. Eva?
Eva is
Why do I keep on saying it?
because you're used to Sarah.
Because I'm stupid. Yeah, probably. That's no problem. And it was lovely meeting up with you this week. Very cool.
Yeah.
And thank you for bringing down those bits as well. Oh yeah, so Richard says Rampage 500 is $39.99 plus postage on both box and CCL. Sorry, I read that incorrectly. Yeah, it's a bit much. I think the last I bought... Who did I buy it from? AWDIT. I bought the Rampage 500 and I think it was $27.99. And I opted to pay for next day postage, which they then turned around and said, actually, we don't have it, so it will be a couple of weeks. Is that all right? It's like, yeah, whatever. And they still charged me the extra postage, bastards. But I thought for under 30 quid, it was an absolutely cracking deal. Kieran says, hey Mike, watching from my 13500 power system. Awesome. Glad you got one in the end. Where did you get it from? Mookie MC says, I wonder if the increased electrical costs have driven a lot of people to buy more modern, power-efficient PSU. Supply and demand driving up prices. Potentially, you could be onto something there. Yeah, I think more so in... Well, I don't know for sure. I'm only going by what I hear on the TV. Well, not the TV, on the kind of news, on YouTube, etc. From what I can gather, actually, William Bodie probably was answering. Anyone else who's in German, whoever else is in Germany, from what I gathered, in Germany, electricity prices are like astronomical, even worse than ours, which I find hard to believe because ours, I think, is basically the highest outside of Europe. But
ours haven't gone down since winter times,
yeah.
So this winter is going to be horrendous.
But having said that, I don't think... It's a weird thing. The whole power efficiency thing, there's different elements to it. And if you look between certain graphics cards, again, depending on how much you're paying for your electricity, ultimately, unless you're going to be using it for like 2 years or something, that's when it starts to kick in, the real differences. So it's actually not that big a difference. But for power supplies as well, the difference between a bronze, a gold, silver is basically gone now. So between bronze, gold and titanium, it's like less than 10%, less than 10% between them. So it's not really a great deal. So you do start paying an extreme premium for the kind of, well, mostly warranty, construction. You do obviously get energy efficiency as well. But sometimes going from bronze to gold isn't always as good as you think it is going to be, if it's from a reputable supplier. Yeah.
Jason Woods, I'm going now. I'll email you tomorrow, Mike, if that's okay.
Yeah, no worries, Jason. I will look out. I'm actually working tomorrow, but I'll look out for it when I get back. In a weird accent, says Mike, I bought a 4070 for my 7700X. I hope you didn't pay too much for it. That's a pretty cool card. It's a shame it hasn't got more VRAM. If it had more VRAM, I think it would be an absolute cracker. But, yeah, Nvidia being Nvidia. William Bodie said there, ASA, PSA Z, 750 watt, 80 bronze at 58 euros. Not too sure, what's that work out to be? 750 watt. That sounds actually not too bad. I've seen the ASA brand here in the UK, but very, very rarely. Richard says, although I think CCL do free delivery now, over £50. Worth bearing in mind.
Buy two.
Buy two, free shipping.
It's sad when you say it like that. It's probably
I got it from
buy what two get one free.
Kieran got his 13500 from Laptops Direct. Nice one. It's freaking huge. They are big cards. Kieran says, the perks of having an Acer A770, the blower doubles up as a room warmer. Yes. Yeah, they do warm up the room. That's actually something I've noticed today. I'm not too sure if it is a thing or not, but definitely having the RX 6600 in there does seem, but there's not really a lot of hot air coming out of this thing now. It's actually pretty cool coming out of there. The GPU, well, the fans are still not spinning on the GPU, so it's just sipping power. UK Miners Club says, my server currently has a HX 1200 Corsair, as that's all I had on the shelf. Well, sounds reasonable. Aletta says, building a water-cooled Hello Kitty themed PC for a friend. I never want to see pink and white again.
Oh, we could do a Hello Daisy themed PC for me.
Oh dear.
I would like that.
We'll just get a load of fur and stick it to the front of your case. Actually, you don't need to because it's already done that. The front panel sucks in
That's
dust.
not all daisies. We could have it like the car on Dumb and Dumber.
We could.
Oh, are you going to do that?
I don't think so.
Dutch Jan's got a question.
Dutch Jan, question. Buy the RX 6700 XT or wait on the 7700 XT? Well, at the moment in the UK, you can get the Sapphire Pulse RX 6700 XT for £299 from Overclockers, I think it is. So for £300, that's a lot of graphics card. And I fail to see that the RX 7700 XT is going to come out and be... If I had to hedge a bet, I would say it's going to be $399. That's, I think, is being optimistic. If it comes out at $350, it still needs to be obviously a little bit better than the 6700 XT to actually make sense. So I don't know. It's an interesting time actually because we've got the Gamescom, which is next week, I think it is, in Germany, and AMD are doing a keynote there. So they are, in theory, from what we're kind of being told, there will be either a 7700 XT or potentially a 7700 and also a 7800, potentially a 7700 XT. Sorry, 7800 XT. The XT bits on the end or whatever is kind of subject to change at the moment. There's been lots of rumours what it's going to be, but it seems that AMD themselves are playing around behind the scenes. Obviously these cards are kind of going to be getting out towards review status very shortly. Looking at estimated September launch. So yeah, there's not a lot of time. So it'll be interesting to see what actually does get announced and the prices and what benefits they're going to have. Obviously, until the reviews come out, it's very much going to be a guessing game, very much like it was with the 7900 XT and the XTX, where they said all this kind of cool stuff and it had absolute boatloads of VRAM, but it turned out to be somewhat of a damp squib, unfortunately. So, yeah, it is what it is.
Dr. Hex, you okay, George?
Hello, George.
Dad's going to do me a Hello Daisy themed PC.
I already have a cats.
Anyway, moving on.
It just
So,
Amazing.
in reactions, the Be Quiet System Power 10 is brilliant for 50 quid. 550 watts for 50 quid. Yeah, it's probably not too bad. The System Power 10 is only a bronze, isn't it, as well, I think. But they are pretty good, Be Quiet power supplies, to be fair.
Can you go up a bit, Dr. Hex? Did you do that? Sorry.
Kieran Atkinson Wood, sorry, I said that. My 6700 XT is listed at 250 and has zero interest. Yeah, it's the 6700 XT is a weird one because prices are dropping. The used market is like, it's kind of, unless it gets to like 225, 200, then I think people will pounce on it. It's in a really weird place. If I had 16 gigs of RAM, it'd be a bit different. Firestorm says, what price will the 7800 XT price be? I don't know. Speculation has been like $450, so it could be £400. I don't know. Yes.
Dr. Hex still. Have you done that or not?
I don't think I have, no.
Have you done a vid on SSDs with and without DRAM?
Yes. Well, I have, but not specifically, but I have touched on it. Dr. X UK. I've done a bit, yeah. To be honest with you, it's one of those things. If you've got a relatively modern system with a good processor and PCI Express Gen 4, HBM or host buffer memory works really, really well. And unless you're actually moving massive chunks of data all day long, then having the cache isn't really that beneficial. For benchmarks, is great, but for modern computing, the host buffer using basically system RAM, which isn't as fast, but quite often are you going to be moving files which are that massive? A lot of these new HBM drives use PSLC, or pseudo single level cache. So they basically use a bit of the drive as a cache, even though it isn't, but they use it as that, so it fakes cache. And they work very well. I don't think I've specifically gone out and bought a drive that had cache in it for a long time. I've been using mostly HBM drives for the last 2 years, and I don't notice any problems at all. Video editing, gaming, whatever it is. The only time I sometimes notice any file transfer issues is when at the end of the day, I dump like 40 gigabytes of video files over to the NAS, but I think it's more the NAS doing it, so it'll transfer, I think it's like 270 megabytes per second across the network, and every now and then it'll drop down to like 220, then go back up again, and that's over like a 12-minute period. You get maybe 2 drops, maybe 3. So if you're doing that sort of stuff all day long, it might be beneficial to get cache, but you're probably better off just buying more system RAM, to be fair. Don't know if that's going to really answer your question, but never mind. What was that? It's Lucky Man, £50. Oh, he's doing the conversion. Well done. Thank you very much. Kieran says, my 12600K is going to be in my partner's new PC. Just need to find another LGA 1700 board now. Yeah, they're not going to be... there's not many cheap boards on the LGA 1700, which is a shame. Otherwise it'd be quite a nice platform. But then saying that, everything's bloody expensive, eh? Where do we get to? William Bodie, when is Mike going to build it for you? Ask him. We all want to see that. Kath don't want a new PC anyway. I've tried to get her to have a new PC. She's still rocking the... in fact... No. Is that... Yeah, you got William Bodie's GTX 1060 in your PC, haven't you? And you've got Welly Bob's 2600 processor. Kath's PC is almost like a community build.
It's almost like a Commodore 64 now. Without the tape deck.
Yeah.
But it's alright, it does what it needs to.
Nick Barnes been cleaning out his daughter's PC. CITF3. Has an extra Arctic fan, stroke hub, but a geez amount of debris for 12 months use. Took 2 hours to clean it and retest. Wow. Ugly Bob, damp squib. We like damp squibs. In a weird accent says I was going to buy 6950 XT, but sketchy sellers. Yeah, it's always that kind of thing in it where it's a little bit like, do. Stuart Cleary, Linus Drama. Is there a Linus Drama? I wasn't sure of that. Babang Dia, India. I don't know. I've butchered that. I do apologise. Says Mike, you're doing a great job. Thank you very much. Ugly Bob says, hey George as well. He's gone, but we'll pass it on. Richard says, Mike, I don't want to alarm you, but Mr. Kerry Holzman has just gone live. Bless his heart. And all those that sail in them. Where are we?
Who's that?
William Bodie. Ugly Bob, what kind of drink can be bitter and sweet? Aftershock? Aftershock. That is bitter and sweet at the same time. Well, no, actually it's sour and sweet. Sweet and sour. In a weird accent says, ooh, please go over this, Mike. Oh, God. Dr. X UK, I can't agree, I'm afraid. Crucial BX500 1TB drive performance is terrible. copying. Yeah, but that's a BX500 isn't got HBM because it's not an NVMe drive. A BX500 is a SATA based drive, if I'm right in saying.
Hey, Flame.
So yeah, if you're buying SATA drives, then the cache is necessary. But if you're buying NVMe's, then there's not really any point because you're directly communicating with the processor and the RAM on the NVMe, NVMe bus, which is basically the PCI Express bus. Whereas obviously for SATA drives, you're going through the SATA, you're going for the actual RAM inside the drive. You're then going through the SATA host controller, then going through the chipset, and the chipset back up to the processor. So you've got tons and tons of stuff going on there and latency. So that's why the cache can help for that as well. I'm not sure if correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there is a BX500 1TB NVMe drive. I'm almost 100% sure that is the case. So you are right to disagree, because we're not talking about the same thing. Alpha Dingo says BX is SATA. Thank you. I thought it was.
He's wet.
Yeah, and only 600 megabytes read write. So it's relatively easy to kind of. You're never going to get 600 megabytes out of a SATA drive on a PC anyway. That's the theoretical maximum. So you're likely to get probably somewhere in the upper 400s, lower 500s. UK Miners Club, yeah, Crucial BX550 1TB 3D NAND SATA 2.5. Yeah, so it's very much working on different protocols altogether. So that is why you will see definite 100% you will find issues with data transfers, especially larger data transfers when it runs out of cache on a SATA based drive, because the cache is designed to kind of minimize all that stuff going on. David Underhill says NVMe is the PCI Express lanes directly attached to the CPU PCH. Yes. Bandy says Mike boxes. Oh yeah, should we have a look at this? We'll have a look at these quickly before we go on to another topic.
Did you do Nick Barnes? Sorry.
Nick Barnes, did I say, what's that?
Did you do a video on manual undervolting?
I did a little video on manual undervolting.
Well, basically,
Yeah,
so
kind of.
A320M be undervolted?
Yeah. Pretty much, as far as I know, pretty much every motherboard or every setup can be undervolted. It's normally the multipliers which are locked. O'Reilly says Crucial SATA SSDs are BX. The slower is the slower drive. MX is the faster drive. Yes, that is correct. Yeah, the BX is cashless. The MX has cache. BX is the budget one. MX is like the performance one. Calf of the Churchills. Matthew Day says overhead camera. All right, I might need something to actually do this on, Calf, because this is going to be like sandy and shit.
Do you want?
I don't know. I'm not
Do you
sure.
want the Apple iTray?
No.
No.
Well, actually, yeah, that might be all right. Let me get some extra light on this. God damn it, that light colour is awful.
I have to put all this somewhere.
Calf's just getting things ready. Is that looking better? A bit brighter. $1 kilo hammer at the ready. So, basically what the theme of this stream was supposed to be about. So this is basically a kid's toy. Mine It Gold it's called. It's called Gold. And they package it up so that basically kids can learn a bit about precious metals and all that kind of stuff. And potentially get some gold at the same time. Yeah, that'll do. Thank you. We didn't steal this from school.
You stole it from elsewhere.
We stole it from work. So, we've got 3 here. Do you want to do the diamond one?
Yeah.
You can do it on camera.
No.
That's where you're wrong. I actually tried getting the stream set up tonight, and I actually put one of the microphone packs on Kath's desk and turned it on. So there you go, so you can chat on the stream. And she's like, nope. It was a firm and stern nope.
That's because I had to wash up the frying pan. Didn't have time to be.
It's, no, desktop, that's the wrong one altogether, isn't it? Why would I want that one? I want the overhead.
What if it's overhead? Maybe I would do pans.
So there we go. There's Boba. Hey, Boba.
I could do it on overhead.
All right, well, I'll do... Which one do you want, left or right?
Don't mind. Don't know left or right. Especially when I'm facing the opposite way from you.
Okay. In that case, it can go either way. Preference?
Don't care. The one nearest me, I suppose.
One nearest you. All right, okay. Well, I'll go with this one. You can do yours after. Because I don't think we'll get both of us on here at the same time.
Yeah, you do have your elbows sticking out.
Big old elbows. Right, let's see what's going on here.
Flamey.
Well, this looks rather cheap, doesn't it? So that is technically gold, although it looks very much like sand mixed with turmeric.
I thought it was a Toblerone and got wrong.
I thought these were supposed to be chocolate coated. I'm pissed off. That was the whole reason I bought it. I thought these were chocolate coated and you'd have to smash it off like toffee, eat the chocolate, and then you're left over with potentially some precious metals. Bloody hell. Right, you have a magnifying glass. So if you feel a bit...
it's worth it for that, for you.
If you want some sexy time after, you can find
use
it.
the magnifying glass from there
Get a shovel.
and there
Yeah.
and make yourself a pair of glasses.
Yeah. Right, let's cut this open. They didn't put a cutter in here, did they? This is designed for kids 5 and up. And I'm struggling.
Yeah, but
And I'm
kids
always
have-
10 times that.
Kids have mum and dads to do that for
It's sand to dry the skin. Okay.
them.
Bro exchanges bitcoins for some gold bars. Yeah, Bitcoin's taken a shit, hasn't it, recently? From what I can gather. It's all over. The crowd think it's all over. It is now. Ugly Bob says, yeah, Mr. Magoo style glasses or burning some ants on the next sunny day. Yes. Does that even work? Anyway. So, this is pathetic. Am I supposed to use this with it?
Can I just smash it down on the tray? Use your head.
Use my head. I try using my head, but... Right. God. This thing's rock solid. I don't want to damage the precious metals. I guess for anyone who's squeamish and don't want to see a YouTuber destroyed by a screwdriver through his fingers, this is going to take a long time. I know they do this so kids got a long time to play with it before they go, well, I'm bored. Spark me up a fag. I'm going to have to go into the shed in a minute to get the power tools out. This is ridiculous. I'm using a screwdriver. Like, if I use the supplied tools...
Somebody did say it took you hours with a plastic hammer.
Like,
Is it
really?
plastic?
Yeah. And it's shit.
Why couldn't they have done wood?
Like, this thing, you can't even... I'm scared that I
Mind
can't...
your fingers. You meant to soak it in water, then chisel away.
How are you? Is that what it says? Did I forget to read the instructions?
I don't think there was any, was there?
You're supposed to do it in water.
Well, how are you meant to read that? Even I can't read that.
That's why they got the magnifying glass included. Here.
Let's have a go.
Watch those sausage fingers. Thank you. Use a bone saw. Hours of fun, literally. Supposed to soak it in water, then chisel away until you reveal what's inside. Well, I haven't got any water. Can I use tea? Or, what's that other thing which
It
is...
doesn't say anything about putting it in water.
No, it doesn't say anything about water.
Look how small that is, though. Have you seen it?
Christ almighty.
Even I
could use this as a new soap. Don't show Mr. Bloody Swatch, Dr. Swatch this, because they'll be making soaps out of it. This is ridiculous. Right, we might need water. Could you get some water, please, Kath? because I don't think this is gonna. I don't want to damage the
think
gold.
Water make it chisel in quicker.
Well, it is because this thing's rock hard. Like,
Shall I just do it and then come back when it's revealed?
well, no, because the reveal needs to be on camera, doesn't it? I need a knife. That's not a knife.
Don't you blunten my knife?
Oh, this is going to end in tears.
Use a real hammer.
If I use a real hammer, the camera is going to get destroyed, isn't it? To be fair, the knife's doing not a bad job.
Ass on it.
I haven't got any ass. Plain thinks there's food.
Pee on it.
I don't have any pea left in me. Oh, solid. Let's just try tea. I've just thought, actually, if there is gold in here and a certificate of authenticity, I've just ruined it. Hey, there we go. Look, oh, well, that was a bit of a bloody letdown, wasn't
That's
it?
the damp squib.
There's the damp squib itself. So what is this? This is some kind of, is this a cubic zirconium? There is actually a box, as you can see, and it tells you on the back of the box what lump of rubbish you've got. This appears to be red onyx, I think. It's closer to that one than it is to any of the others, I think. Can
They all
you,
the same shape.
I don't know.
Because
That's square.
No.
Yeah, it looks like they're all square. Although it could be pictured jasper.
You are?
It says picture jasper. I don't know what it is. It's anyway. So one box in 24 has real gold. That's quite good actually, because 24 is how many carats
Box
proper
that
gold
up
is.
For a chicken stock cube range.
Oh man. Right, do you want to do yours now?
No, it doesn't look like fun.
It doesn't look like fun at all, does it? At least we know a quicker way of doing it now. Shall I just get the other one soaked and do it quick? Yeah. Alright, let's do that then. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to flip back to the other camera a minute.
Flame jar, come up.
Now I've got sand all over my hands. So there you go. That is a couple of quid wasted right there. But on the plus side, I've now got 2 of these, so I can actually fashion myself some glasses.
Let's have a look at you on camera. Actually, I could look at my phone, couldn't I?
So, when it comes to doing motherboard front panel connectors, I'll be sorted. I'll be able to see them.
It's the missing part of the Rubik's Cube.
Of course it is. Got my beer goggles on. How much were these things? It doesn't matter because we're putting it on the business expenses because it is a prop for the stream. Otherwise, there's no way in God's green earth I would have paid for this nonsense. Mike can use them in the bathroom. These are actually pretty cool. These could be props at some point as well, because they do look like gold. So if the graphics cards come out and they end up being super expensive, I can use those as props, can't I? Happy days. It's not a wasted thing. Right. This is wasted though. I really wanted my cup of tea. Oh, I'm missing it. It's like going to the toilet after you've had way too many. Right, I think that's enough. Let's get you on the overhead. So this is slightly saturated now, so in theory I should be able to... Yeah,
Well, he
boy.
bobbed off. He's got visitors.
Cheers, Willy Bob. Ooh. Ah, I thought that was something interesting, but it's not. It's just where it hasn't soaked up. And here we have a nugget of the finest black. What the bloody hell is that? It's basically I've won coal.
Black line jasper or volcano rock.
It's probably volcano rock.
That's quite good for cleaning the toilet. Oh, you slipped. Well, it's quite heavy.
It's quite heavy, so that's why I
Well,
don't.
it sounds it.
So what we want to do when we go back is to look for the lightest one. Because the lightest one is going to have gold in it.
Keep that for one of the kids' stocking presents.
Yeah, there you go. You've had a bit of coal. Right. That's it. I'm funned out. I've got... Look, they put turmeric in with this sand. Or something like that. What should I do with this nonsense now?
Is it actual sand?
Yeah, I think so. Put in the garden?
No, I don't want all that yellow stuff.
It's actually staining my hands now. There should be a warning, like not to give it to kids. Treacle toffee. It's definitely wombat poo. Excellent. We've won a lump of coal, everybody. So there you go. A lump of volcanic rock, possibly, or coal, and some I don't know, pink something. So those are apparently precious stones. I beg to differ. Right, I'm literally going to have to go and wash my hands.
Well, you've got to do the diamond one, haven't you?
I can't do the diamond one with dirty hands.
Why?
All right, I will. Right, let's do the diamond one. If there's a real diamond in this, this is going to be the best stream ever. If there's not a diamond in it, and it's another lump of coal, waiting for Superman to compress it in his hands to make it into a diamond, I will be less upset, because that's the best part of, well, almost 10 quid.
You need to sing while you're doing it. Shines bright like a diamond.
Shines bright like a diamond. Hey, for Cyclops.
Can't put them all on.
I can't, this stuff's getting everywhere. I've got to clean this shit up
We
tomorrow.
can super glue them to your eyebrows.
So the
Have one
diamond...
on the top.
Oh, the camera's on the top, isn't it? No, it's not. It's up there. I'm forgetting where it was. Right, let's go back to the
Oh,
overhead.
that's lucky. That could have been on
There is the, there's the diamond. So let's see what's going on here. Yeah, don't do this at home, kids.
Mr. Aplex says, hey, I know this is not the right time to ask.
No, it's always the right time. Anything to save me from this shite. Go on.
I just watched your review on the B550 Plus motherboard and I got a question.
Okay, yeah, fire away. Opening loot boxes. This is the the real world version of a loot box. It's almost as bad as buying a lottery ticket. O'Reilly says Mike could never sound like Rihanna. No, you're absolutely right. There's a cat trying to get in.
There isn't.
There is, in the window. I can hear them.
Poppy Dora's going to love doing the diamond. Hey, Poppy Dora. Hello. Are you going to help Grampy?
I'm not a grampy. Alright, let's see if I can get it to suck up some of this.
Go and help Grumpy.
It's not cat litter before you think of it.
Oh, God, that'd be funny.
There's no diamonds in there, Pops.
You're the diamond in there, aren't you?
Really random uses. Oh, we're looking for gold, are we? Yeah, literally. It says it in the thumbnail for the video. And who am I to not do what it says in the thumbnail? This isn't a Linus Tech Tips video. Mr. Aplex. So basically I'm trying to build a PC. Best of luck with that at the moment. But want to plug in multiple fans on the motherboard. Do you maybe know how many can be plugged into the motherboard? If that's okay. Oh, this is for the B550. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I think it's probably 3 or 4. But each one of the headers will take more than one. Or if you want to, you could get some sort of splitter or hub. Like we did one for the, I think it was Deep Cool, the FH10. And the Arctic one as well. Which basically you can hook up to like 10 fans. Right, I think that's soaked up enough now. So let's see what we've won. It's definitely not a diamond.
What's Grumpy got?
It's more of this cubic zirconians or something. Right, that's definitely darker than that one, but is it just because it's wet?
On your wedding ring.
Yeah, I'll get it mounted on my wedding ring. That's not going to hurt every time I sneeze. I will break myself.
Oh, Bobby.
Right, there we go. We got some lucky stones there, Poppy. Lucky in the fact that I bought them to save someone else the pain. Right, I'm going to keep those. Kath, can you possibly get rid of all this nonsense? I will keep those 2 gold boxes though, because they could be potentially useful for something. You won an Oxo Cube. No, an Oxo Cube's actually useful. An Oxo Cube actually does have a genuine... Oh, that's empty now.
I'll do a couple on there as well.
Go on. That's fine. I need to wash my hands. Anyway, moving
Bring
on.
a bowl of water.
Bring in a bowl of water and something I can actually wash my hands with, because this feels absolutely horrendous. You know, like when you go to the beach and you get sand all over you? It's nothing like that. This is more uncomfortable. Like, much more uncomfortable. Dr. X UK says make sure the fans you use don't add up to more than 1 amp. Good point. Although saying that, there are a lot of motherboards now, especially I think the B550 range, which I believe the CPU header and the the AIO pump header will deliver up to 2 amps. Derek Cannon says I used to collect OXO cubes but got accused of stockpiling. Stuart Cleary says, yeah, Mike bought them so you don't have to. Exactly. Lucky Man says that would have been 3 times yellow sticker sandwiches. It would have been a lot more than that. That's the best part of 10 quid's worth there. Thank you very much, Taxman and Tax Returns. I had a nasty letter come through this morning from His Majesty's Customs and Revenue saying that your payment for your tax for the year is late. And I'm thinking, well, I paid my taxes like when I had to. Because you're supposed to get until, I think it's the 31st of January or something like that. And yeah, apparently it was
last year.
Yeah, even though I paid like whatever in advance for next year, for some bizarre reason,
What they guesstimate you might earn.
they think that I still owed a certain amount from last year, even though I've already paid the bit from advance. So not only am I advance on next year's tax return, I'm also in arrears on last year's, which I don't understand how that works. In theory, you'd imagine it to be like filling a bucket up. So if the taxman gives a bucket and says, I want this full of money, you fill it up and you start from the bottom and you work up. And it doesn't appear that is the case. The taxman's bucket works in mysterious ways. I filled up about 1/4 of the bottom, missed out the half in the middle, and then put some on the top. However that's possible, I do not know. So, yes. Very strange. So they were charging 68 pence a day interest on the outstanding. So I'm tempted to send them a letter back saying, well, actually, I'm going to pay you, you owe me 68p a day for the interest from the advance that you've got on next year's taxes.
And let alone,
Stick that in your pipe.
weren't they like about 4 years paying me back my overpaid tax?
Yeah.
But they didn't give me no interest. That's
Ridiculous.
68p a day.
Anyway, right. I'm definitely gonna wash my hands because
What's the date?
the date
It
today.
took 7 days.
Yeah, it took
We
7
got into it
days,
to
and
get here.
yeah, that's not my fault, is it? The bastard. Still working. I'm in the kitchen now. This is running water. I'm not taking a sneaky pee. Although, to be fair, it is tempting. But no, I better not. But I could mute the mic, I suppose. There we go. 3 shakes, you know the score. Sorry, doing this as quickly as I can. Times like this where it'd be great to have like a drone camera that just follows you. Anyway. Okie dokie. Oh, open that window a bit, it's getting really like hot in here. Oh, this is full of sand. Yeah. Huh?
Please.
Please, thank you, cheers.
Let's stick them on with some super glue on your eyebrows.
Yeah, let's do that.
And then one on your forehead.
That's a great idea. Let's stick those all over me.
Actually, I think you might have a picture coming in.
Right then. Okay, let's go. Oh, this is going to be horrible mousing. Thanks, Bob. Am I still on the overhead? No, I'm not. Good. Okay. Right. It's been long enough. I've been putting off for as long as I possibly can. This is still going. Yep. Oh, yep. We've still got viewers. Awesome stuff. So, let's... Oh, Mr. Apex. Let's finish that off before we go. So, you're looking at getting the Prime B550. It's hard to say specifically whether or not that is the right choice for you. There are some bizarre quirks with ASUS motherboards in terms of the RGB software and the fan control software. So the fact that you're asking about fans and fan control, my gut instinct is, depending which country you're in and how much you're planning on spending on that particular motherboard, I would potentially sway away from the B550 Prime and possibly edge more towards the B550 Gaming Plus from MSI. Specification wise, not a great deal between them, but for me personally, and I would argue for probably a decent percentage of the viewers currently and members of our Discord, the MSI motherboard in terms of fan control and RGB control, significantly better. And also you do have the benefits of things like the diagnostic DLEDs. It may not be the fastest board on the block, but the B550 Gaming Plus I think is pretty much at the moment, in terms of the AM4 stack, I would say the B550 Gaming Plus is possibly the best bang per buck. And I've said it before numerous times, I would quite happily go out and buy that board, and I have bought one, reviewed it, sold it on a system, and it's very, very rare for me as a YouTuber to buy two products the same, because it doesn't make sense. As a channel, there's no point buying the same product again because you can't re-review it really. You can do, but you can't do the unboxing, you can't do the boss tours, you can't do the boss flash, etc. because you've done it, you've been there, done that. So it's a very rare thing, but I have bought, I think now, probably 3 B550 Gaming Plus boards from MSI. Even though we do MSI kind of, not sponsored features, but we do MSI product reviews, that's one of the few boards which I buy repeatedly. So take that as what it is. The ASUS one, it's a good board, it's an honest board, it kind of does what it does, but you do have to pay the ASUS tax on it. So you're paying a premium for what is otherwise a relatively mediocre board. Yeah, that's pretty much all I can say on that really. Yes, I think that is pretty much it. David Andrew, MSI for the win every time. Kieran Atkinson Wood says, screw ASUS and their warranty. Yeah, to be honest, I don't think MSI, ASUS, Gigabyte, who's the other one? ASRock. I don't think any of them do particularly well in terms of warranty services. I think they all struggle. And they all have things where they could improve. That, again, is why with most of these things, as much as I don't like to say it, because I think they're taking over the world, if you buy from Amazon, it makes life a lot easier. Now, a very cool story. Only a few weeks ago, Dave Aiken from our Discord and also YouTube, he had his MSI B550 Unify board, and there was some sort of weird quirks with it, and he got in contact with Amazon. I think it was like literally a couple of hours before the warranty was about to run out, and he managed to get a full refund on it. So that is why I generally will try and buy from Amazon wherever possible, especially for motherboards. I think it makes an absolute ton of sense to do that because their warranty is, well, Amazon warranties generally, if it's an Amazon item bought from Amazon or fulfilled by Amazon or whatever, I think the warranty is much better than you'll get from any of the other UK high street retailers. Scan, eBuyer, Overclockers, AWDIT, Box, CCL, you name it. None of them can come within spitting distance of Amazon's return policies. Generally, they're fantastic. And even if you get to Amazon, you speak to customer services and you don't get the desired result, you just try again later on in the day until you get a different answer. You know, like the what they say is the kind of the what they call it. What is the definition of insanity? And that is asking the same question over and over and trying to get a different answer. With Amazon, it actually works, because if you don't get the answer you want the first time, you can just keep on trying, and eventually you'll get through to someone who basically either A, doesn't care, or B, feels for your plight, and you get what you need. Hi, Skystalker. Stuart Clear says, when is Dave Aiken's due his kid? I don't think it's too long. I think it may be 6 to 8 weeks, possibly. Not long. Not long. Really random review says, I've never had an issue of Asus, to be honest. Asus, in terms of the actual reliability and longevity, they're not actually too bad. But if you do get a problem, that is when it suffers. And arguably the software. The Asus fan control software is hideous. And now that they've removed Fan Expert 3 and Fan Expert 4, you can't download it from most of their boards. It leaves you with basically Armory Crate or a third party. Or doing it in the BIOS. Most people are happy to do it in the BIOS, to be fair. And a lot of people probably don't even tune their fans at all. But for me, personally, I like to tune my fans to a point where I don't have to listen to them, like the PC behind me. Currently, it's totally silent. Tune the fans to exactly how I want them. But it's an MSI board, so it's allowed me to do it much easier in MSI sensor, which is happy days. Michael Ellingham says, Scan UK's warranty is not actually that bad. I think Scan probably okay as well. Most of them to be in, it depends what it is you buy. There's going to be some things where, like, say possibly from memory, there might be an advanced replacement system or something like that. So they've got a deal, either Scan or whoever, got a deal with the company on a specific group of products. So it's like, if there's any problems, they just advance replace it. Or they do a quick turnaround, collection, return, that sort of thing. Like you get with monitors. But it's starting to become more and more rare. Whereas with the with motherboards, it's a really hard one to argue, because you get into contact with them, with customer support, and they're like, what's the nature of your problem? And immediately on the other end, their first thing is they think you're an idiot. I know they're trained not to, and they're not supposed to, but they do. Because they come out with all these questions like, have you done this, have you done that, have you done this? And for a lot of us, it's kind of like, this isn't our first rodeo. Like, yeah, clearly we could have missed something pretty obvious. But if it's got to the point where, like the viewers of this channel, if we've got to the point where we've had to speak to support, it means that we've pretty much exhausted most things, and we've probably already discussed the problem within our own little community and possibly the wider community. It's like, well, what's going on here? What is going on? So they are your kind of last line of help. It's like, I can't fix it. The community hasn't been able to fix it. The YouTube community hasn't been able to fix it. Clearly there's something going on here. So you're relying on them, but then they come back with like, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And it's like, you go round in circles. And it's really frustrating. Whereas with Amazon, you just didn't like it or doesn't boot. Boom, 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 click, return label. Okay, it'll be collected tomorrow.
That's good when you've got other competition out there, but when that other competition gets taken down by it.
Yeah, if there's no competition out there, they won't have to do it. So it's good that we have other competition in the market. So
They won't be as good when there isn't any competition.
yeah. Well, you don't know that for sure, but it's unlikely.
They have got worse gradually over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alpha Dingo says Smart Fan is a joke. G-Zone says I got the wrong one then. Asus B550-F. It's fine. They're fine, but I personally prefer MSI motherboards. Given the choice, if I'm looking for motherboards, even if I see a Gigabyte one, which is maybe a little bit cheaper, I'm still thinking B550 Gaming Plus is really what I want to be looking at.
There we go. Eat food from outlets in Pandora.
Which is actually a bit of a nose. Viali 100 says, I used to buy from Ginger 6. Ginger 6 computers, I'm pretty sure, used to be either Bristol or Western Supermare based. And then they kind of just blew up. Got really big. They used to be, I'm pretty sure Ginger 6 started out selling, first of all, maybe on Facebook, or it might have been on eBay. And it was probably early 2000s. It's true, Claire says, shill, joking. I bought quite happily shill. I don't mind. I've never put myself in a position to say that my word is an authority on anything. So I can quite happily shill for anybody, and it makes no difference to anything I say. Because you'll know. Okay. There are more boxes, Mike. There actually is a couple of boxes. Actually, something else we got this week. A couple of things, actually. We'll quickly go through those. This was a
Before we begin, Nick
Yeah.
Barnes said, what happened to that motherboard minus USB 3 port? Did you see that?
no, I haven't. Actually, that is in the same pile, so that's actually very handy. So, the motherboard with the lacking USB 3 port, which is this one here. This is the MSI Pro B550 VDH. This is the one that I really, really wanted to get working, but as you can see, I've obliterated the oh, bit of solder fell off then. I've obliterated the USB port. I basically just took it off in its entirety because this board was doing like weird random reboots and stuff, which I assumed was part of the USB thing. Because if you didn't plug anything USB in, it would go to the BIOS and it'd be very happy. But as soon as you plug in anything USB, it got upset and would just reboot randomly. This is still a work in progress, but for all intents and purposes at the moment, it is still kind of dead, stroke dying. And I don't think I've got enough technological know-how to see what it is that it's doing. I'm not sure if there's one of those like plug-in PCI Express things you can plug in and it will diagnose and tell you what the issue is. I don't know if it's that kind of issue where it would do that. I think just because the USB somewhere, like a track's been broken or whatever, that is basically just kind of no good. But I haven't given up on it. You can tell that because it's still here. I always would have thrown it in the bin. But that is still a work in progress, which I will get around to doing. It's just finding the time for things. I have, funny enough, with the the Linus Tech Tips thing, part of this Linus Tech Tips thing, let's say the earlier part of the week, I understand where they're coming from. So as you probably most of you have seen by now, Linus Tech Tips got roasted in the media for having inaccurate or basically poor reporting on their reviews and benchmarks, etc. Which, considering, oh God, where do you start with this? Considering, right, Linus Tech Tips as a YouTube channel started out being kind of a slightly geeky channel, a bit dorky, having fun with components, unboxing things, not taking itself particularly seriously. I have a very, 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 very familiar feeling about that. It does feel very, very familiar. So with them coming from that thing, basically working out of their garage, growing up, moving into the house, doing the crazy stuff like the whole house water cooling and all that kind of stuff, it's all a little bit fun. It's essentially, although it is a tech channel, it's an entertainment channel at its heart. And for many, many thousands of us, millions, billions, whatever, however many views they've had, for a lot of us, we tune in or have tuned in to Linus Tech Tips at some point in our YouTube history to be entertained. Now, obviously, at the same time, you can learn things, but mostly it's just to take a look at tech in a slightly offbeat or unusual way, have a few laughs, have a few giggles. Linus has always been kind of seen as, well, not so much always, but more so recently, he's been put into the frame as being the kind of eccentric millionaire, the kind of the Elon Musk of the world, of tech anyway. So, well, of YouTube, I suppose I should say. So he is seen as a kind of a meme-worthy figure, with him dropping stuff all the time, wearing the sandals, all that kind of stuff. His entire image was designed for a specific reason, to appeal to a certain type of market without being overly geeky, but being somewhat relatable to a very wide demographic of people. And clearly it's worked very well. Where this has started to fall apart in terms of the video side of things, we'll talk about the HR and that side of things a little bit later. But where I feel personally, and feel free to disagree with me, that is what this is about. I will be looking at your comments shortly to see what the deal is and see what your thoughts are, see if we agree or disagree, or maybe we just meet somewhere in the middle. Who knows? Anyway, where I feel personally that the Linus Media Group started falling apart, it was twofold in fact. The first one was their massive expansion. They did it really quickly. They were expanding, buying properties, hiring people at a very rapid rate, which for some people can be a very good thing to do and very manageable and all that kind of usual stuff. But at the same time, the whole labs thing came into question and they started spending an awful lot of money on high-end testing equipment. So at that point, you've got a very definite shift in the kind of the ethos or the ideology behind LMG. So there's the original kind of people, and like people like me and possibly like you, who've watched it since it came out, like the early 2000s, and you've followed it and grown up with it. So you knew what to expect. A little bit of fun, a little bit of messing around, some benchmarks, some reporting, all that kind of stuff. And you knew that if you wanted real in-depth reporting or advice or the real SP on certain products, you would probably go to a channel which spends more time in depth. So you go to Hardware Unboxed, you go to Gamers Nexus, DeBauer's channels, etc. If you wanted motherboard information, you knew where to go on the internet. So Linus Tech Tips was kind of like the light relief. Then you had the other kind of arguably serious channels like Gamers Nexus, where they did kind of proper investigative journalism and were essentially journalists rather than entertainers. So there's that definite shift between the two. So with Linus investing all this money into the labs thing, it's a very hard thing to do for any company or any business to go from being entertainment to being educational. You can flit somewhere between the two, but it's finding that right balance. And I think with them spending so much money on equipment and kind of promoting the labs and hiring all these media and experts, I suppose you'd say, in their field, engineers, all that kind of stuff, the guy who worked at Asus, etc. So they were spending big money on people to make the labs thing a goal. So for them to then rush content or to set their own benchmark way higher than it needs to be in order to basically get bums on seats or eyes on screens to make sure there's content constantly from LMG, that I feel is where they've let it break down. So they've kind of got most of the building blocks in place to actually create really, really good content. But due to their self-imposed pressures, they haven't given themselves enough time to bed into that role. So at the same time of them introducing the labs thing and also then doing reviews on the Linus Tech Tips channel, as a viewer and as other YouTube channels are pointing out, you're saying all this stuff about labs and you're testing methodologies and this, that and the other, and you spent all these basically millions of pounds on technology, but yet you're still getting the fundamentals of benchmarking wrong. Like, you need to be called out on it, because there's people watching this thinking that Linus Tech Tips as a media group are now the kind of the authority on these things, when they've still got some growing to do. They still need to grow into that role. And also as their content is brought to you, it's still comedy, but then they're trying to throw in fact. And it's really difficult to do that, extremely difficult, because ask any actor or actress in a lot of them struggle to go from serious roles into comedy and from comedy into serious roles. There's very few actors which manage to pull it off. If you only got to go to like read any of the Hollywood kind of things, and you'll see it happens all the time. A lot of actors refuse to do comedy because they don't want to do it, because it takes away something from their theatrical performances. And comedians don't often like to do it because they don't feel it fits with them. So you have to have a very wide gamut of your own abilities to be able to cross over those genres. So that, I think, is the first thing which obviously needs to be addressing. So yes, they've messed up a lot of reviews, or a number of reviews, and it's obviously been pointed out, because clearly, obviously, like, I don't want to call out Gamers Nexus or Hardware Unboxed or any of the other channels who are kind of chiming in on this, but they are the ones which have spent many years, many hours, and lots of sleepless nights, and lots of money developing their tools and their methodology and what have you, of getting you credible, repeatable, reliable results. Now, yes, they make mistakes because they're human, but it's more of a rarity than being kind of like, okay, how many mistakes are going to be in this video? So that is where I feel that's gone wrong. And going back to what I started saying earlier on, about 10 minutes ago before I started on this whole monologue, is the fact that I can understand where they're coming from. Like, I try to do 5 or 6 videos a week, basically one a day. So that's Monday to Saturday, plus the live stream. So 6 videos plus a live stream, so effectively 7 videos a week. Now clearly the production qualities on this are significantly lower than any of those aforementioned channels, but I still find it difficult. And this week, with what's been going on personally, and also like Colin coming down to visit as well, it's all little things which happen which then knock you back. So this week now I'm kind of like 2 days behind, 2/3 days behind. So I do feel that pressure to kind of catch up.
But you've gone as far ahead as possible.
Yeah.
So you don't need to catch
Yeah,
up
I have got a buffer of videos, or we have got a buffer of videos.
in case of things like this.
So it's not the end of the world, but it's still, I do feel that self-imposed pressure, which is totally self-imposed. There's no reason I don't have to do it. I don't have to do a video every day. But to some extent, it's kind of almost expected now. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Whether or not, if we went back to maybe 4 videos a week, whether or not we could make the videos that much better to make them worth waiting an extra day for, I don't know. It's kind of a routine that we've kind of got into, and it's kind of works. So we do what it is. So I can totally understand where Gamers Nexus, etc., on kind of this side of the coin are coming from, because they're saying, look, you've come into our niche or our area and you're not doing a particularly good job of it, and it's kind of making us all look a bit shady, because obviously most viewers don't know what goes on behind the scenes. They don't know about all this other drama which is going on. So if you find that one of the top tech channels on YouTube is basically not very good, then it kind of puts everyone else in a similar kind of thing. It's like, well, it's just, they're just YouTubers, what do they know? And it does have that knock-on effect. And I kind of get that, so I understand why they're pissed off, and the fact that they're pointing out and things should be done better. That is definitely a thing. And I feel that Linus as an individual has to make a serious internal thing with himself now, and decide whether or not the LMG Labs is actually called LMG Labs. For me personally, I think there needs to be a definite segregation. So the whole labs thing is an entirely separate entity, potentially even hosted by somebody else. Nothing to do with Linus Media Group at all, other than the fact that they own it and they run it. But in order to kind of say, right, there's the line. There's Linus Media Group for entertainment, and there is whatever, Labs Incorporated, whatever, for the technical side of things. And the two should not really cross over. And in fact, in Linus's interest, it would make sense, because they could then turn around, and because it's 2 companies, Labs testing could be purchased by LMG Group to use in their content. So it would be a money spinner, because they would then, it's like if you rent a building you own to yourself for your business, you're kind of paying yourself twice. Anyway, so I don't know. Seems that let's have a quick look. I think that's basically where I am on it in terms of the whole. I personally feel that they should be doing better. And when it comes to Linus's responses, I think they definitely need to be addressed, because he's still thinking with the mentality of someone who's basically started off in their garage. And I would do the same thing myself. If I got an email or something went wrong, or I was called out on YouTube, I would probably react in a very similar way. So I can totally understand where he's coming from, because you do tend to react from the heart rather than being from kind of like stepping back, thinking about it and going, well, actually, yeah, you're right. I've done that loads of times. People have put a comment on a YouTube video, called me out on something, and been quite like stern, sometimes obnoxious about it. And I'd get a bit upset and a bit sort of, who do you think you are, sort of thing, or you can't tell me this, sort of thing. And I have replied in a way that I later thought, actually, no, I shouldn't have done that. I should have handled it better. But luckily, I'm not so much in the public eye as Linus or any of those others, so there's not that kind of ongoing effect. And also, don't forget as well, obviously, in the YouTube game, even though mostly everyone is pretty harmonious and gets on with each other, there's also an element of jealousy as well when you see some channels doing really well, or like in Linus's case, multi-million-pound house, spending a lot of money on refurbishments and goods and the swimming pool and the computers and putting together $100,000 servers just to run some heating. Those kinds of things are like, especially in times of financial distress that a lot of people are in now, it's kind of like a bit of a kick in the teeth. So I can understand why people are having a bit of a backlash. That is totally understandable. And I think there then comes that line between, is this entertainment or is this showing off? There's a very thin line between entertainment and showing off, especially when you're doing some really expensive stuff. And then, of course, you go on to the slightly more legal matters, such as the Billet Labs cooler. That was an absolute joke from start to finish. Actually, just even watching the video to begin with, the opening sort of sections of it, it's like, well, we're not actually going to use the right graphics card for what it's designed for. That immediately was a red flag to me, watching it early on, rather. And I'm thinking, well, this is like, if it turned out that it was the wrong card and it still performed really well, then you'd be like, okay, awesome. They've got around the problem. It still performs excellently. Still looks like a viable product. Fair play. Interesting video. But when you do something with the wrong product and then it performs badly, that's when it's kind of like you really need to be doing better. Unless you are specifically highlighting a problem with a product in terms of either its documentation or the way it's been marketed or whatever, then you can get away with it. But the fact that they actually supplied them the right graphics card, they supplied them with all the fit-ins, all the information, schematics, the lot, and they still chose to go down a different route and then basically kind of slate the product or say that it was a waste of time. To a small company, that is catastrophic. Although hopefully from the exposure they've got from it, they might actually be able to turn it around. But I think if it wasn't for being called out on it, I don't think it would have been such a good outcome for them. And then, of course, obviously, the fact that then they auctioned off the piece of hardware, which was a prototype apparently, to someone at LTX or whatever it's called. That in itself is, yeah, that's a very, very murky area. Especially if the item was supposed to be going back and it had that kind of value attached to it. That whole thing was handled really badly. So for them to say, as a comeback, it's okay, it went to charity, I didn't profit from it, that's kind of irrelevant. If I went down the street today, stole someone's Tesla, done an auction online to one of you guys, and I gave the money to charity, I've still stolen someone's Tesla. The fact that I've given the money to charity and done some sort of...
like that monitor, for example.
Yeah.
You're contacting them first.
Yeah. You can't just go around doing random Robin Hood shit with other people's stuff. It's just not a thing. And then to kind of double down on that after and say, well, no, it's fine, this went to charity, I didn't profit from it. That isn't the answer that we wanted as a community. What we wanted to hear was, yes, we 100% screwed this up, we will be making amends with the company and we will fix it. And we're very sorry for everyone involved. It's we'll put it down to a learning mistake and a communication error. And we're extremely sorry and do some sort of public apology to the company and to the viewers possibly. And say, look, yes, hands up, we made a big mistake. And it's not excusable. Or there is no excuse for it. So that's kind of really where we're at with it in terms of that section. Where it also gets, this is the bit from me which is the problem area, but that is pretty bad. And the whole reviews thing, it's like, whatever. I've watched enough review channels to know that, yeah, you get bum data, and obviously you learn to kind of ignore them slightly and go over to Gamers Nexus or Hardware Unboxed or whoever. The next thing is about the internal policies or the internal conflicts at Linus Media Group. Now, going back to what I said earlier, companies that grow really fast, especially a company which is starting out of someone's kind of basement, garage, whatever, and has got that very, like I said, it's an entertainment channel. It starts off as an entertainment tech channel. and it's been always very, very laddish, I think is what we would call it here in the UK. It's got that kind of, that vibe of kind of young kids with a little bit of money, having some fun, making some content. They don't have a kind of a strict regime. It's not like a 9 till 5. They have a bit of fun, they have a laugh, and they do things, they prank each other and all that kind of stuff. So it's a kind of, they're almost performing all of the time. Like, what you see them on camera isn't necessarily their real self. They obviously amp things up for camera, and they include things which normally in real life they would never do. And I think because they've been doing it so long, and it's become one of those kind of almost internal policies that you're expected to be like that, I think that is where a lot of it goes wrong, and a lot of them will probably have trouble switching off. Now, myself and Kath, we've worked in the television industry. I was over 10 years in it, Kath slightly less. So we kind of understand where they're coming from with this, because you do, if you get into like a media environment where it's all cameras and showbiz and all that kind of stuff, there's a very different vibe. And
It's not real life.
yeah, it's not real life. It's a very, very surreal experience. If you've not worked in TV, it's a very, very difficult thing. It's a big culture shock to begin with, very big culture shock.
Not nice.
And also there is the kind of hierarchy, the niches, the little cliques that you have as well. So all of that as well, and having to perform and basically mostly being kind of actors, for want of a better word, you're a persona. It's not the real world. And in those environments, you get people doing things that they wouldn't normally do in real life. And certainly from my own point of view, and being a father of a young woman, and also seeing what happens to kind of trainees, interns, and the younger people, not necessarily just girls, young men as well, teenage boys, men, whatever you want to think, basically younger people, they are trying to get into this type of business, into kind of media, and
they're taken advantage of.
yeah, they're basically taken advantage of, in, if not directly by their superiors, basically by anyone. They're used as gophers. That's a term which used to always be commonly used in like TV and film. You had a gopher. Basically, they were just a young person who was employed just to run around doing stuff. Go for this, go for that. That's where the phrase comes from. And it gets to the point where you put more and more work, and normally it's the people at the bottom of the chain, like the gophers, the trainees and all that kind of stuff, the apprentices, the work experience people. They're the ones who really get crapped on, because they get all the stuff chucked at them and they're just expected to be able to cope with it and handle it. And if they're quite a young person, they're just come out of high school or college or whatever, they're not used to that kind of high pressure environment. It's a different type of pressure.
But also, because it's only on a fixed term contract,
Yeah.
they feel obliged to do everything.
When you get a job in media, generally it isn't like a golden handcuff deal. It's normally, right, okay, first of all, you're on probation for a few months. Then after probation's gone through, then you maybe get a year's contract, or maybe a 2-year contract, or whatever it might be. That's very common. So you get short-term contracts, which is the way that media works. Because if you give someone a job, if something turns around and you don't get on, or they want to do something, or you want to do something, you have to sack them, then you have to give them payouts and all that kind of stuff. So in order to get around that, you have short-term contracts, which means that both sides are able to kind of leave the contracts early if they want to. It can be negotiated. So you're quite often short-term contract, which also means that obviously if you want to stay working in the industry, you have to be able to get that next contract, which normally means taking a lot of shit. Because if you don't take the shit and you stand up for your rights, or you go against orders, or you just have some form of rebellion against what you're told to do, the chances of you getting that next year's contract are very slim. And they don't have to give a reason why they're not giving you a contract. They just say, sorry, we decided we're doing something different. Thanks. And you're gone. So you do have that pressure. And I think that's what a lot of people haven't brought up in this entire thing, is the fact that short-term contracts exists, and it does put a lot of pressure on the employee to basically be controlled. So I think
And
that's...
it doesn't matter if you do everything they say, because
Yeah.
they still
Yeah,
probably they don't want you.
it puts the employer in a massive amount of control. Very much like in the UK, we get these 0-hour contracts. So if you don't do as you're told with a 0-hour contract, you just don't work.
You don't get any hours.
No hours, no nothing. That's your thing. It happens. So, and to some extent has been partially verified, or at least hasn't been rejected in its entirety. I think there is going to be some elements of truth to that story. And when I say there's elements of truth, I'm not saying that Madison, I think her name is Maddie or whatever, I don't necessarily believe the story 100% because I wasn't there. But at the same point, I don't believe that there's no guilty party in this either. I think there's going to be bits of this and bits of that. And pretty much I think that's what the LMG senior management team are also thinking. That is why they've got in an independent investigator to investigate it. Because I think that for them is the sensible thing to do. Ultimately, it's going to leave somewhat of a stain on LMG, I believe personally. Especially for, I think there's certainly a demographic of people that have grown up with the channel and are kind of, we've seen them as being like friends or someone we can relate to. So when you see this sort of thing happen, it kind of makes you put a bit of perspective, say, oh, actually, yes, it's all cool and it's been fun watching, but the stuff going on behind in the background potentially is a little bit murky. So I'm a little concerned about that, as you would be with any company. Like look at the BBC, when over the years there's been various BBC personalities that have come out as being like bad people. So it does happen in media companies, and it wouldn't be unheard of for it to happen. It's very sad that it has to happen, but I don't think it's something that you can turn around and say, no, 100% it didn't happen, because I don't think any of us can answer that properly. And maybe we'll never find out. Maybe it'll be one of those things where there'll be some sort of amicable agreement and we'll never find out the truth. But it's still going to be it's going to be there. I described this actually as somebody on our Discord when we were having a very brief discussion about it. And I said this for LMG is basically like praying in your car. You have an accident in your car, it goes off to the manufacturers, gets repaired, but that car is never quite the same to you. And I think, for me personally, I think that's how LMG is going to be. It's like if a girlfriend cheats on you. It's kind of like, yeah, you get back together, but maybe it's not quite the same. There's always that little thing in the background. So I think for a lot of people, LMG is going to be like that, especially if you are a parent and you have young children and you can relate to what is potentially happened here. And you think about your own children and think, well, yeah, this could happen. And like I said, myself and Kath worked at the BBC. We've seen young trainees and apprentices go through absolute hell in order to try and keep a job, which eventually most of them don't get. So, yeah.
It's the carrot.
Yeah, they just dangle the carrot, dangle the carrot, dangle the carrot, and you have to do as you're told.
And then the carrot disappears.
Yeah, and then it gets whipped away.
And
So,
the carrot goes on someone else.
so yeah, I think that's pretty much my take on it. I don't particularly enjoy this. It's drama, so it's one of those things that it's kind of engrossing. The fact that it's happening within the tech space, which is kind of pretty much where we are, it does have some effect. And obviously there's been people that have asked my opinion on it. I would love to say that I don't have an opinion, but I do. So I'm not going to just stand by and say no comment. Some people will. Absolutely fine, it's up to them. I have my reasons for commenting, again, because of being a father of a similarly aged young lady. So yeah, it does make you think. And also, again, like I said, working in the media, you see these things happen, and it does happen.
Thousands of people want your job anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that would want that job, but not many will stay in it. It's normally the way. The thing that I do find a little bit, well, quite interesting, we don't always hear about the people that leave LMG, but we do know there's been a lot of people that have gone to work there and are still there. Some have left, some have gone to other things, but it does seem in general, quite a lot of them seem to stay and are still there now. So I don't think it's like a terrible place to work, but potentially that could be because of the kind of the little cliques or the little niche or the kind of bubbles that are formed in businesses. It happens. My heart goes out to Madison. Clearly she needs some form of help and closure on this. Whether or not she had previous issues mental health wise, no idea, but it certainly appears that that has been the case during her time there. And hopefully now that she's out of it, she is recovering and making the best of things with her, well, with whatever her career is doing now. Generally, I hope she can put some of these demons to rest now. If, again, the alleged demons, I should say. So it's very, very much, it's a mixture of a lot of things. High pressure, extreme workload, crappy employment practices, which are universal, so you can't blame them for that, and the kind of the lad culture which exists in basically all businesses, no matter how big or small. I think they all have that element to them. I'm not saying laddish because it's mostly men. Women, girls, ladies, etc., they can be just as bad. So there is definitely equality in the workplace in some respects like that. Although I do feel that in the workplace in general, it does seem to be the younger females that do get a harder time than the males, I would say. Which you'd often think it would be the other way around, that people would probably go a little bit easier on young girls because that's the way that we're brought up to be. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, I'm going to go through and read your comments now, because I think I've said pretty much as much as I can on that. I just want to see what your thoughts are. I'm guessing that most of you are going to be of a very similar mindset. I've not said anything here which I think is outrageous, or I don't know, maybe it is. Maybe you disagree completely. Hopefully we will find out now. Let's have a quick... James Miscellaneous is with us. How you doing, James? Viali, LTT will never get me watching again. To be fair, I've seen a lot of people saying that thing. Again, it's like that thing. There is going to be a lot of people that won't go back purely because the videos, maybe they don't appreciate the entertainment anyway, or they want more reliable, more professional benchmark results, which I totally understand. If you're saying that I'll never go back to watch them because of the alleged instance with Madison and potentially others, then I would say if you're in that boat, probably worth kind of just don't do anything rash. If you want to cancel your subscriptions or not watch them, that's entirely up to you, but I wouldn't make a decision based entirely on a post on the internet, because that is kind of how cancel culture works, and I don't agree with cancel culture at all. I think you should always see as many sides of the story as possible and then make an informed decision. But that's just my opinion. Personally, I'm still subscribed to LTT. There's no content to watch because they've put themselves on self-imposed exile for a bit. But yeah, when they come back, we'll see what they say. Where else? Right, who else we got? Mark says they were goofing around with someone's product. Yeah, I think they definitely were. They should have done better. Dutch Jan says he thinks his own staff thinks everything is going way too fast. It is, but the thing is as well, even if they slow down, there's no guarantees that the information is going to be any more accurate. I think that's, again, something which a lot of people haven't really addressed. Like, you can get... look at all the reports that the government have done over the years. There's certain reports, pretty famous ones, which have come out, which have taken years to put together and still have turned out to be inaccurate. So, not necessarily having more time and more. I think the more important thing is not necessarily more time, but actually having either a reduced workflow. So there's maybe only maybe 1 or 2 people working on a project, or a minimal amount. Because as soon as you get people working on anything which they do not understand or don't care about or whatever, that is when things go absolutely wrong. Now, again, working at the BBC, seen this 1,000 times, where you get people who, in all parts of the chain, are like, they really love the program, they really know the history of it, they know it inside out, but then you get some people who just want to work and they don't care, and they're just like, this is my job, and they're told to do something. So they don't really care about it, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the background, so that is when things go wrong and you get like continuity errors and stuff. And the same happens with LTT. There's bound to be someone there that gets a load of graphs come over and they don't care, they're just good at doing graphics, and they're like, not even reading the information on the screen, and just like, right, this is the script. Yep, there you go, on to the next person. That's where it falls over. As soon as you get someone in the pipeline that either doesn't know what is going on, or doesn't understand the results that they're doing, or don't understand why they're doing what they're doing, that's when problems creep in, because that is one of your checks and balances as you're going through. Like if I was doing benchmarks on graphics cards and I passed it over to Kath and said, Kath, can you produce me a chart for this? I would know that it's kind of pointless, because although yes, Kath would do her utmost to get the information as correct as possible, she doesn't understand what the information is on there necessarily. That's my job.
And I don't know how to make a graph.
Yeah, and she doesn't know how to make a graph. But that's your checks and balances. Don't have people in a role where they don't know the whole pipeline of it, which is hard to do, especially on a growing thing. But the reason they grow in is because they're doing too much. So slowing down, shorter pipelines, much better process, much better results. That is my opinion. Gaming since 1981 says, I feel LMG are doing too much in such little time, and that's where errors come from. Yeah. James Messina says, I know a thing or two about calling out tech tubers. BS, I don't mind being checked myself. I think that's the thing, we should all be open to constructive criticism. You're never going to please everybody, but if someone criticises you and it's constructive, you just, yeah, take it on the chin, and it is what it is. Where else do we get to? Mark says, your content is always a pleasure to watch. Thank you. It's not always 100% accurate, but then I never claim it is, so that's my kind of get out clause. Freedom House 1984 says, I do a build once every other month. Mike kills it. Yeah, but we don't really do builds as much these days. If I do, it is rushed. I don't do those long build videos. But then for me, I don't necessarily like doing build videos. I don't really like watching them either. I'm not sure. I don't even know what I like watching these days. I'm trying to do videos that I actually enjoy making or want to make, which is a bit narcissistic really, but I don't really want to make content that other people would like. If they like what I like doing, great. I think that makes sense. Sky Stalker says, Mike's unboxing production quality is really quite awesome. Love the format. Thank you, Sky. Sky's been around for a long time, so he's seen us evolve from basically about 1,000 viewers, I think, maybe less.
Less, I would say.
Probably a couple of hundred.
He was right.
And Aletta and Sky Stalker have been around pretty much, I wouldn't say since day zero, but from the very early days. Yeah, Captain Meets Adventures as well. Stuart Clary says, that's too much pressure, Mike. Do you really need to output as many videos? I don't, to be honest with you. I really don't. And actually, our video stats would be significantly better if we only did like 3 videos a week, maybe even 2 videos a week. Because then, I think at the moment, a lot of people watch the content, but because it's on a constant cycle, like one a day, you don't always get time to, yeah,
recently.
yeah, you probably miss out on content. Whereas, like Paul's Hardware, for a good example, he used to do like videos all the time, but then I think probably come to the same conclusion that people will miss your content, so it's easier for him to do one video a week or 2 videos a week and get quite a lot of views on it. But the trouble is, for us as a smaller channel, especially when we're at the sort of 10, well, yeah, between 5 to 10k subs, I suppose it was really hard to kind of break out. So you needed to keep on punching videos out in order for there to be something which would appeal to viewers and then hopefully gain the momentum. So you start off in the beginning with that scattergun approach. So it's like one video every day, boom, 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 get them out. One of them eventually is going to do well. And that has worked for us pretty well. And we've grown like quite significantly from it. But we don't have a niche. So people don't necessarily have a reason to come back other than A, they enjoy the content, or B, they're bored and we're on their sub feed. That's the honest answer. And I get it myself. Like every day, go to my subscription feed, who's done a video today? And then you go through and it's like, well, which video am I most interested in? And then you go through and eventually you get to some of the videos you're less interested in. And hopefully that's where we get the additional views, because every day we're putting out something, so we're always going to be on that subscription feed, hopefully. And eventually there'll be a couple of breakout videos which do like particularly well. So yeah, maybe we could reduce the video count a little bit, but we're still in that kind of trying to get that growth thing to get the momentum. But it would benefit the videos. I don't think the view count, I think the view count would go up if we did less videos. But at the moment, it's kind of almost been one of those things where it's like, it's a routine. Wake up in the morning, do such and such, do that, make a video, edit it, blah, 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 next day, same again. And it's become a routine, and I like routine. So it's going to be hard to break out from it. And I don't think the video, the only thing I think that I should do more of, let me know actually what you think in the comments. Do you think in the videos we should address or put more timestamps in? Because I do get people asking for timestamps, and because the videos are quite long, I think it does make sense. And I have tried to do some timestamps, but also for the amount of views that a video gets, it's like, well, which videos do you do timestamps in? Do you do all of them? Do you do some of them? Do you do the high ranking ones? Or I should do them all, to be fair, but it's one of those really time consuming things because you have to watch the video through in almost real time or twice real time. So 20-minute videos, 10 minutes of your time. You have to pause every now and then to type in what it is, then upload it. It's like half an hour of video, realistically, to do timestamps.
If any of them would like to do them,
So yeah, but if anyone wants to do timestamps,
stick them in the comments.
God bless
I
you.
won't pin it.
Yeah, stick them in the comments and they'll be pinned.
Or we'll copy and paste into the description. Is that what you do?
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Squibby. Damp Squibby. When I built my PC, it was Mub, Tech Yes City, and Random Gaming in HD I trusted. Bless you, Squibby. That's a very nice company to be in. Rick H says, I like David. I have watched the occasional David Does Tech Tips video, or David Does Tech. I'm not a fan of his presenting style, I'll be honest with you. It's a little bit too high energy for me.
George likes them.
George really likes it. I struggle with it. I do struggle with it, if I'm honest. I don't know why. I think it's a human thing. Sometimes there's just some stuff that you just watch and it doesn't work for you. I'm not saying it's bad content or it's in any way. Well, yeah, there's nothing I can say. Obviously, it's a great channel, loads of views, very popular. Appears to be a very nice guy, but I don't like the presenting style. Obviously, trying to flame me too much in the comments. But yeah, it's my preference, and I have other people on my subscription feed that I watch, which I kind of prefer. But yeah, whatever floats your boat. There's a lot of content out there, so there's always going to be something for everybody. Joe Panicio says real life comes first. The thing is, when you've got a YouTube channel, real life is kind of your YouTube channel. It's weird how it does envelop it, sort of. Real life, like, where does real life end? I suppose because we film at home, we don't have a separate business premises. you don't have that kind of distinction between work, home, and relaxation. And because we do all this in the same room, you never really shut off because you've always got the comments open or whatever. Even if it's just playing a game on a night to unwind, it's like Discord's going, or the emails are coming in, and there's YouTube comments, and yeah, you never really shut off from it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not moaning because I love what we do, and I would much rather be doing this than anything else. But yeah, it's not your typical 9 till 5, that's for sure. If you can make it a typical 9 till 5, awesome. But I've struggled with that. Calf has as well, obviously. Calf says, "Stuart, I tell him to do that too." I know. Well,
How many times a day do I tell you go outside and get some sunshine?
the trouble is as well, for those of you that have been around a long time, you'll know kind of some of the reasoning behind why we started the channel. In the early days of the channel, Kath had a diagnosis for an illness which potentially could have got pretty nasty pretty quickly. So in the early days, it was like, I need to work from home, I need to earn money, I need to keep the roof over the head, etc., etc. Over the head, the big head. It's not random gaming in HD. So I needed to kind of shift gears a little bit. So I did push myself a little bit harder to try and achieve certain levels of kind of comfort or income, let's say. So yeah, it was one of those things, and I don't think I've ever really managed to get out of that mindset because I did it for so long. I think probably the first, probably the first 2-3 years. I'm trying to think.
We started in 2017, and we're working.
When did you quit your job in Crowns? When was that?
2020.
2020. So yeah, probably about the first 3 years of doing the YouTube was kind of like, this is a race. There's a place I need to be, and if you do that for 3 years, it's really hard not to. And then of course we had,
days is a habit, isn't it?
yeah. Then you had like the whole COVID thing which kicked in, so it meant like, I was like, well, okay, like the viewing figures are going up, and it's like, wow, this is good. If I can get more content out, I can have more views, and we can grow the channel massively. And yeah, that 3 years then turned into 6 years, and yeah, kind of now we're at this point of like, well, I've done it for so long now, I might as well just carry on.
But when we first started, we weren't doing daily videos, were we? But we were working. So
Yeah,
we'd
we
leave
were
here at
working as well.
8:30 in the morning and get home about 8 o'clock at night. So sort of 12-hour days out of the house, and
Yeah.
then coming home making videos.
12-hour days, then come home, make videos until
And
like
we didn't
midnight,
have it
and then
all
wake
set-
up, do the same thing again.
But we didn't have it all set up in there. We'd set it all up as well,
Okay.
and put it all away, and then go to work, and then come home and do it again.
Skystalker says, by the way, like the new format at Mike's Unboxing, driving straight into the subject works better for you. Yeah, I think there's going to still be some videos coming out on the channel where, because we've got like the 3-week buffer, there are going to be some which are kind of, I want to say filmed in the old format, but it basically just doesn't have the Mike's Unboxing sting at the beginning. But yeah, it seems to be working, and actually I've noticed already from the couple of videos which have gone out without it, the viewing retention time is significantly better. So I think that has definitely worked. But we'll see how it goes. Michael Ellingham. Oh, that is very cool. I have learned more from your channel than Linus Media Group. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. I'm calling BS, but thank you. The thing is, it's very different content. Like we do the Saturday night streams are basically entertainment with some messing around. The videos generally are relatively straight, informative if possible, mostly trying to not dumb down tech but make it a little bit more accessible to people that don't know all the terminology, the gigabytes, the gigahertz and all that kind of stuff. Trying to make it simpler but not like idiot's guide level, somewhere kind of in between, which seems to kind of work. Colin Hilton, this is the only channel I as a non-techie can understand and enjoy watching, plus the friendliest group of followers in live chat. Bless you, Colin. Thank you very much.
He's one of them.
He is one of them, actually. He's just, yeah, his kindness and Bob's and Sky's and Aletta's and all the others. Sorry if I've left anyone's name out there. It wasn't intentional.
Stuart. Who else?
William.
William.
Yeah, William Bodie. Yeah, Stuart.
Matthew Day's been there for
Matthew
a long
Day,
time,
yeah.
hasn't
Matthew
he?
Day's been around for a long time as well.
And
Yeah.
Nick Barnes.
Nick
now.
Barnes, Michael T,
David Aiken.
Dave Aiken,
Sky,
yeah.
but David Underhill.
So
There's
many.
lots of them, aren't there? So many.
I could just read out all the names of people in the chat
Yeah.
right now.
All of you.
Where else have I got? William Bodie, Sky at Sky Stalker. I don't like this Linus. It's like he is always trying to say something to show an ad, and he's all over. Oh, he's talking all over. Yeah, Linus is, at his heart, he is a very, very hungry entrepreneur, stroke businessman. Ultimately, the reason why he's doing what he's doing is because he wants money and he wants power and he wants fame, fortune, all that kind of stuff. That's what he's always wanted. He's never really been someone. He's never come out and said, "No, I don't want to do that. All I want to do is build a community." He's never ever said that. He has always been very hungry to get to where he is. To the fact that kind of butting heads with most of the NCIS senior management over things because he had a vision and he wanted to do it, and woe betide anyone who tried to stop him. So he is very headstrong. Right, let's catch up with some of this chat because you lot have been going. Alpha Dingo says, I think a lot of people have had enough. Yeah, I agree. It's just, it's tiring. It's emotionally draining. Stuart Cleary's coming with a super chat there. Oh, hang on. What is that? There we go. Thanks, Mike and Kath, for many years of helpful tech advice and also live stream fun. Shout out for the wonderful, not actually ugly Bob. Shout out for all the wonderful, not actually ugly Bob also. I butchered that, I do apologise. It's late in the day.
Oh, Poppy Dora.
Matthew Day says, one day I may finish my build and then I will do a keyboard comparison. Marvo versus Arvo. You really, yeah, of course. Seriously, you need to get on and do that. You being attacked by a cat?
Not attacked. Loved.
Oh, bless her heart.
She's bugging me. Oh, you're going to fall. Granny's got you. Spin round.
David Underhill says, I've been in IT since 1971 in some role. That's quite some experience. Especially seen a lot of changes. Not necessarily all for the better. Freedom House 1984 says Linus did a video showing turbulence in cases, which made me change the way I set fan speeds so he can make good content. Oh yeah, I don't disagree. Some of his content is actually very interesting, and I've learned things from Linus Tech Tips for sure, especially in the early days, definitely.
It's not scratch and boost.
Gertz 1987, personally never been a fan of LTT. My favourites are PC Builder, Paul's Hardware and you. Oh, bless you. Thank you. I wasn't expecting to see that at the end. Nice to see though. Irie Wolfman. Now this is actually, yeah, something I agree with totally. Shows you the state of tech when the news is the people that got popular and more didn't get corrupted. Yeah, it's I was thinking that earlier this week. There's a channel called Gamer Meld or Gamers Meld. I'm not sure if it's Gamer Meld or Gamers Meld, and it's kind of like a news channel. And as soon as I saw that they were doing like Linus coverage and it was on their thumbnail, and also UFD Tech, it was like, wow, this is really where we come to. Like Gamers Nexus, you can totally understand the thumbnail because they were the one that called it out to begin with, the inaccuracies. So that made a lot of sense. But then when you started seeing reaction channels and people reacting to it, it's like, yeah, it clearly is. Well, it's not slow news because there is stuff going on in the tech world. Like obviously there's Gamescom next week, AMD releases, etc. and stuff. There is stuff going on, but Linus Media and Linus Tech Tips have pretty much been at the kind of epicenter of tech channels for many years. So it does have an effect. They are like the big sun in the middle of the tech space that we all kind of float around. They were the ones that started off, like unboxing channels for us. Unboxing. Linus was pretty much one of the original unboxers before it became a thing. So it does have an effect on the rest of us, like it or not. It's like people say you shouldn't get political or you shouldn't get involved, whatever, but it's really hard to because it does affect you in some way, shape or form. Nero's with us, says, hi Mike and Kath, how you doing? Joe says, I'm so glad you overcome your illness to whatever level that may be, Kath. You both seem like such nice grounded people. I have enjoyed your videos and lives immensely. You're very welcome.
It's taken time. I think I've got there.
William Brady says, so Mike did do Breaking Bad, but in a good way. Kind of. Chris Hartford, Linus problems, quantity over quality, and lost me with all the 100k server stuff. Not interested at all. Yeah, I think a lot of channels do it, and that's the reason why I still don't. I do have this kind of this weird moral compass, and like there's some things which I get for review, and I think to myself,
Where you get offered.
yeah, if I was in a position where I was just a regular member of the public, would I go and buy this product with the budget that I have or for how much it costs? And there's a lot of stuff which we get offered, and it's like, I don't think I would buy that. Now there's some things which I think are borderline, and it's like, well, it doesn't necessarily appeal to me, but I can understand there is going to be a market for it, and I certainly think there's people in our community who would appreciate seeing it to evaluate it for themselves, and they would possibly appreciate my opinion on it. So that is why we do a lot of that stuff. There are some things, and I will call out Thermaltake as being one of the prime bugbears at the moment of that. With those massive cases. Personally, for me, I don't like them. But I understand that they are pretty good value for money. And there are going to be people that are interested in them and they're not outrageously expensive. And in fact, they're actually cheaper than some of their alternative brand counterparts. So in terms of a value proposition, they kind of make sense. Even though for me personally, I'm not entirely convinced by huge cases.
But then we're UK.
We are in the United Kingdom.
And we have tiny
As
houses.
Bob, Dave, Colin and others would agree with, this room's tiny. Like, it doesn't look on camera anywhere near as small as it actually is. Like, literally the camera at the moment, how far do you think the camera is from my face currently? You'll be surprised to know how far away the camera is from my face.
Got a tape measure.
Yeah. I would say it is less than 3 foot. Because I had to buy a very expensive camera with a super wide lens just to fit in what you can see there. So I'm going to look stupid. If this isn't 3 foot, I'm screwed, aren't I?
6 inches, you told me.
I said under 3 foot. So this is, there you go, you can see it's literally touching the lens. Well, it's not touching the lens.
It's blurry.
It's touching the lens hood. And there you go. 34, well, let's say 35 inches. So I was right. It's literally 1 inch under 3 foot. So that is how far the camera is away. That's almost just a little bit further than arm's length. So this room is tiny. and the camera does a pretty good job of kind of stretching out a little bit, so it looks a
It's
little
me.
bigger. To calf, I would say is 5 foot away, maybe 6. There you go.
That's my chin.
So 64 inches, so 5'4". So it's basically Linus's distance away.
Is he that tall?
I think he's 5'4" when he's got his Cuban heels on. Let's fast
Sneakers.
forward. His sneakers, yeah. Michael T says, I like some of my higher end PC parts, but you can with many things find cheaper, just as good or better alternatives. Ugly Bob says, yep, can testify. Matthew Day squints at box. Is that an RX 470? It is. Ugly Bob, 3D glasses on now, kids. Rick H says, I really like your low to mid-range builds and product reviews. That's what drew me to the channel. I think it's realistic, to be honest with you. Like, I've always said this before. I've always been very, very aware that there are a lot of countries in the world which aren't like the United Kingdom and aren't like the United States and are, I'm not going to say they're third world countries because they're not, but there are certain countries which have a demographic or a user base of computers that don't have a lot of income. They're under severe hardship, and we know from the Discord there's people in certain countries where they literally don't have enough money for a table and they've got their PC literally on a cardboard box. Like, we joke about building a PC up on a cardboard box like for testing, but for some people that's reality. That is their PC is on a box because they can't afford a case. If they want a case, they can't have a graphics card, or they can't have some RAM or an SSD. It's literally like that. And hopefully it's those people that watch some of our content and are like, oh, cool. I don't have to be like Linus, or I don't have to be like Jay's 2 cents or whatever, that are promoting all this really high-end gear. Because you don't have to be. You can enjoy computing the very, very bare essentials. And
In
that,
fact, the barer they are, the
I
more
actually,
you enjoy
yeah,
it.
I prefer it. The less I spend, the more I prefer it.
Like that graphics card.
That's just me.
Ugly Bob sent you.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And actually, talking of things that have been sent me, let's. I should address these boxes, actually. SC says, do you mean Wales? No. Ugly Bob says it was the Vicky Pollard accent that drew me to the channel. No, but yeah, no. I can't think quick enough to say that now. Gaming Nexus is very clinical, but good for info. LTT can be can be too much, sometime over the top. Yeah, it's ultimately like TV, films, etc. There's always going to be something for everybody, and some people like that sort of content. Some people dislike it. It's down to the individual to find what they like and enjoy it. No one's going to be like the best, and no one's going to be the worst. There's going to be like levels in between, depending who it is. I should mention as well, Skystalker sent in this MSI Armor Radeon RX 470 4GB GDDR5. This is actually in pristine condition. This was purchased, I believe, I think he bought a couple of these, and this is one of the ones which, for some reason, he just could not get to work. It looks kind of almost, well, it's pristine. I don't know if this is actually being used in anger. Sorry. So this does look basically brand new. The fans appear to be free. This was one of those typical designs before we got into the era of GPU sag being a thing. The MSI cards, they didn't have a lot of strength actually on the back here. So there was always a thing where you had to support these because they bent like crazy and there's no back plate. But this is a RX 470. From what Sky tells me, it doesn't look like this has actually been ever tampered with either. The security screw is still intact, so it hasn't ever been taken apart. It looks absolutely pristine, well, apart from my greasy hands all over it. And I believe, yeah, all but one of the covers are still on. That might even still be in the box somewhere, I don't know. Oh, there's a pube. Hopefully one of mine. There is, yeah, it looks basically brand new. I don't think it's ever been used. If it has, it's been very, very light Yeah, Sky, let us know the history of this one if you know it, if you're aware. But basically, this doesn't appear in Windows. Well, it appears in Windows, but it doesn't show a display or anything. So Sky thought it'd be a nice idea. Send it over to us, and we'll have a look at it, see if we can maybe flash the BIOS. Potentially, this has been used or attempted to be used for mining or something. I'm not entirely sure. It could just be plain old simple faulty. But we will be doing a bit of a video on that. Hopefully, I'll try and get around to doing that this week, or I need to find some way of doing it so I can do it actually in a stream. So I think that'd be quite a fun thing to do in a stream, to flash a card, because it's one of those kind of like ass-clenching moments where everyone is like, oh my god, is it going to work? Because most people hate flashing the BIOS, especially on a GPU. So yeah, it might be a cool thing to do in a stream of some sort. Maybe we'll let me know what you think. So, thank you very much, Skype, for sending that over. Yeah, sometimes the HDMI port doesn't always initialize, because this would have been in the era when we were making the move from CSM over to UEFI. So if the BIOS isn't 100% UEFI compliant in some systems, it just will not boot.
You're killing Uncle Bob's ears.
Sorry, your ears again. But yeah, absolutely pristine. So yeah, it'd be pretty cool to get this up and running. See if we can actually resurrect it. Not too sure what I'm supposed to do with it after. Am I supposed to be sending this back? I honestly can't remember the conversation. It was so long ago. This came from Canada, and it was, I want to say 6 weeks. I think it was 6 weeks it took to get here. So the conversation we had previously is completely... We could have had a conversation yesterday, to be honest with you. The way my brain is at the moment, I would have forgotten about it. Anyway, thank you very much, Sky. We will hopefully have some fun with that. Like I said earlier, Colin Hilton came down and visited us this week on Thursday. Again, very, very nice. He's a really cool guy. Like, I know people say that, and because he's kind of a benefactor to the channel, you kind of expect me to say it. But genuinely, he's actually a very cool guy. And being the fact that he is from somewhat north of the country, there's a certain way of people up north, and you got the accent, the mannerisms and stuff. Yeah, it's
What are you talking about?
Colin. It's just a very, I don't know, just a genuine people, you know. So yeah, when you talk to people online and stuff, and you never really kind of get a real take on them until you've spent a couple of hours chatting to them. And after speaking to Colin for a couple of hours, yeah, you can tell he's a top guy. That's right. I have a frog in my throat. Sky says, use it in any way that makes sense, giveaway, etc. Okie dokie. We will see. So when Colin came down, he left us with some items. There's actually a couple of processors as well. So he's left us with a Intel 7700K, an i7 7700K, a i7 9700K, and also another 9700K, which is on this particular motherboard. So this is the MSI MPG Z390. Now this is an era for me of Intel motherboards and Intel processors, for that matter, that I'm really sketchy on in terms of knowledge, because they were always pretty expensive. And like I've said, cheapskate, AMD. I was AMD for very much the majority of this generation. So AM3 I was on until I went to the 2500K. Then I went to a 2600K or 2700K, one of the two. And then after that I went straight into AM4 on the Ryzen 7 1700. So the Z 170, 217, 370. So basically pretty much third, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh gen Intel I never got involved with. And 8th, I kind of dabbled very lightly. 9th, again, very, very lightly. It's only very recently that I've gone back to using Intel processors like 10th gen, 11th, 12th and 13th, which have been pretty decent. So yeah, it's going to be very cool to experience some of this technology. I was going to say older technology, and it kind of is, but at the same time, when this was out, it was like very, very highly revered. And it was market leading. If you had the money and you had the ability to get this stuff, then it was like the way forward. For those of us that didn't have the money, it was AM4. So actually a stunning looking board. Gaming Pro Carbon is this? Yeah, Gaming Pro Carbon AC. So this is, as far as I'm aware, I think this is the top of the line board for this particular era of chipset. So this is, I think it supports 8th and 9th gen Intel. I could be wrong. So on the socket 11.5X or 11.5.1. So yeah, it's a very nice looking board. You've got some addressable RGB. There's an addressable RGB header, so it's got some of that going on. Well, I think I've bent the pins. Or CAF has. I blame CAF.
What do you mean I have? I haven't touched it.
Look at that. So defensive. Straight away
I
in there.
haven't even
Wasn't me.
touched it.
It's doing a shaggy. Wasn't me.
What pins?
I caught her with the RGB. Wasn't me.
I can't believe you're blaming me.
You've not even touched this actually, have you?
No.
No, I think it's me. I think I have bent those slightly.
That's how much.
We'll blame Colin. Anyway, moving on. So this has got a i7 9700K, which my knowledge of this era of processors is absolutely horrendous. But I think I'm probably right in saying this is a 8-core CPU without hyperthreading. I might be right there, I think. If someone can Google it and tell me, I would actually appreciate it. I think it's is it 9700? Yeah, the 9700K, I think there's an 8-core processor with 0 hyperthreading, and I think the 9900K was 8 cores with hyperthreading. But I could be completely wrong there. Like I said, my knowledge on this era of Intel is basically 0. So I'm going to have to do some research on this.
Well, your knowledge is that I have never touched it.
Yeah.
Take that.
Turbo M.2 slot, so you've still got, even though it is, what, how many years are we on now? 13, 12, 11, 10, so this is about 3-4 years old, I think, possibly. So you've still got Turbo M.2, so it's going to be PCI Express Gen 3 on here, I'm pretty sure. The top slot is probably going to be PCI Express Gen 3, the bottom one's probably going to be Express times 2. Again, I haven't really looked at the specs on this. It's been a crazy week, lots of stuff going on, so I haven't looked in great depth. But hopefully we will... looks like there's going to be some RGB going on at the top here as well.
And also, William Bodie said, hashtag blame Dave.
Oh yeah, hashtag blame Dave.
Blamed me.
Of course.
Silly.
Michael T says the 9900K was the only hyperthreading CPU on the 9th gen. Thank you.
That was Workplace Bullion, that was.
Sorry. Workplace Bullion. You got it. Lucky Man says last one for me was 3770K. Mark says he had an MSI X99 Gaming Titanium Silver PCB before getting my AMD 7950. That's a pretty decent processor. Yeah, where is Blame Dave when we need him? So, John Conlife says yes, it is. Thank you, John. Captain Me's Adventure says, Kath, get on the phone to Mub HR for Workplace Bullion. Kath is HR for Mub.
It's alright, I don't need to phone, it'll be cheaper.
Yeah, just shout.
Just tell myself in my head.
Viali says, just don't like the look of MSI motherboards. Feature set is usually lower than Asus too. Yeah, generally Asus boards of this era, for sure, would have been higher spec on the same kind of product tier. Although they would have been more expensive. MSI boards generally tend to slightly undercut some of the features, but slightly undercut the price as well, just to kind of give the option, I guess. I think in modern chipsets, especially the B550 and the AM5 chipsets, I think MSI have given ASUS a very, very convincing run for their money. In this era, I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, I'm not entirely up to date on what this is all about, but we will find out very shortly. So yeah, looking forward to doing a build with this actually. I've not used a 9th gen processor, especially an i7 as well. So yeah, that is a very cool board. Looking to get some bits together, and we'll make that thing. I'm not too sure what case to put it in yet, because there's some elements of silver in this. I want to try and incorporate that in some way if I can. But then saying that, it's also a pro carbon, so maybe I should try and get some carbon fiber effect going. Lots of choices here. There's not a great deal of white on it, so we might have to go for a darker case, which I think would work better with carbon fiber anyway. I'm not always into doing themed builds, but I think for this I might make a slight exception. Although I might have to make the exception because I might have to get a cheap power supply and put the carbon fiber on the side to cover up the label. And in fact, Ugly Bob's carbon fiber wrap that he sent ages ago will most likely be coming to the rescue on this. So again, thank you Colin for sending that over and bringing those over. There's also a bunch of Leanne Lee fans which I've got put away up there, so I'm not going to grab those down now. But that is very cool, so we'll try and get some content on that. It'd be nice actually to visit the older 9th gen Intel, do a Windows 11 install and see actually how it performs. I've not used that generation, so having 8 performance threads, for want of a better word, should be pretty cool. Be interesting to see what they go like. Got sand in my mouse now. Oh, there it is. It's on the other screen. Mark says, missed my MSI motherboard. Went with ASUS ProArt this time. The ProArt boards do look nice. Michael T says, MSI is the go-to for many overclockers. Is that because they're cheaper, and if they destroy them, it's actually cheaper to replace? Oh, God. Sorry, I have to kneel on my stool because my legs are giving up today. There we go, a bit taller now. Am I still in the shot? Yeah, just about. Mark says, use mine for music production and my YouTube channel. What's your YouTube channel, Mark?
So I have to make him a mod to be able to...
Yeah, make him a moderator so you can post it. Matthew Day says, got a board for the 7700? No, I don't as it stands. Looks like you can get a SFX, a small form factor that would carry it for 50 quid from CEX with a 7100 in, maybe some cheaper with Pentium or Celeron. Yeah, that is something I'll be looking for. I'm trying to think, what boards would it be for that? So it would be a Z170, is it? I think it's a Z170, or it would be the H110. William says, now Mike is 5 foot tall. Still not as tall as Linus.
Or Tom Cruise on Nicole Kidman's shoulder.
Yeah. Nick Barnes says, was RGB available on 9th gen motherboards? I don't think it was particularly widespread, but if you got a high enough one up the tier chart, then normally I think you would. But lower end ones, no. You'd have been pretty much relying on 12 volt RGB. Mark's channel is MDX Mashups.
There's a link underneath.
Let's have a look. MDX Mashups. Mash it up, he said. So MDX. So there you go. I'm going to subscribe as well. Let's all head over to MDX Mashups and chuck a subscription on. Actually, what are your videos about? Before I change my mind.
Music on there.
That's music stuff, okay.
I think he said that.
Oh, it's MDX Remix. I got you. Ah.
You read that out?
I read it out, but I didn't understand it. I just I just went into I went into Linus Tech Tips script mode and just talked about things that I didn't know anything
Who is
about.
it? It does the scripts and then does the little chuckle. It's like it's written in the script.
That was Gamers Nexus to some
Was
extent. Yeah, there was someone else saw recently. Oh yeah, don't forget to subscribe to Colin's channel as well. And also, let's see if I can find it as well. Superman G. I think is it Superman G? Superman G. Let's, I'll stick that in there as well. Copy.
Okay, George?
Yeah.
There you go. I pasted a thing into the chat. So head over to Superman G. He's the other YouTuber who's working with Colin, doing these good deeds.
Where are the other cats?
So head on over and drop a sub.
Still.
Wait. We've been stuck in with the rain all day, haven't we?
So some subs done. What else we got? Oh, I know what we got. There is, well, actually two things. One of which there was a special offer on. I wanted to post this further afield, but it was on our Discord. But these were actually really good value for money. These are the Sickleflow 120 ARGB fans from Cooler Master. These are normally like 40 quid plus for 3 fans and a controller. Not a hub, it's a controller. So yeah, it's not quite what you think it's going to be. It's basically an adjustable RGB controller which you can use to make the fans do stuff. There isn't a hub, but they do have like leads, pass-through leads, so you can daisy chain them. These were not £19, and they were basically under 20 quid, but it was only for a few hours. So I did post this on our Discord in the Bargains No Chat. Hopefully some of you actually managed to get hold of these, but these are really high quality fans for what they are. For 20 quid for a pack of 3, you're looking, what's that, £6.33 each or something. It's very cheap. So we will be doing a review on those. Unfortunately, you probably won't be able to get them at the same price, which is a little bit unfortunate. Why I'm kind of almost thinking I might not do a dedicated video on them. I might just put them into a build in a video and see what happens. But yeah, they're pretty nice fans. I can get one of those out and pull a fan out. So actually, this is probably like a little bit old school. I think these are probably a good 2, maybe 3 years old now in terms of fans, but really nice quality, very strong, sturdy. I'm guessing they're going to be really quiet as well. They seem to have a very nice bearing. The central hub is actually pretty big as well, which is quite often a good sign. And even just rotating them, there's no clicking or anything. So I think those are going to be really nice and quiet, which is something which I do like. Some people have mentioned that the cables on them are very short. And yeah, the PWM cable is less than a foot long, I think.
Who gave you that little character that matches your
No,
mouse?
so like it is exactly a foot long. Eh?
Who gave you the little character that matches your mouse mat? Was it Rick?
Rick H, I think, yeah.
Because can you tell William Bogey it's Rick H, not George, that did it?
Oh, it was yeah, it was Rick H. William that sent in the Star Wars Boba thing, head, bobble thing. Anyway, so pretty nice fans. Unfortunately, it does appear that the deal has expired. They're now back up to about 40 quid from the Amazon link. If I do find any more, I will put links in our Discord and possibly on the YouTube community tab as well, for those of you that are subscribers, and maybe you check in there every now and then. So yeah, those are pretty decent.
Can you see Chris Hartford?
No, because he's at the other end of there. Chris Hartford, Mike, I found some cheap Corsair DDR5, but it's for Intel. I'm on AM5. Does that matter? It never did. Yes, it does. DDR5 is notoriously picky. Even if it's got AMD Expo, it can still be a bit picky. So ideally, well, there's a lot of Corsair RAM on the market at the moment, which is really cheap, especially DDR5, but it isn't specifically Expo rated. You can use XMP, but AM5 as a platform, I personally think is very, very unstable, very much on rocky ground. You never kind of know what to expect from one day to the next. So if it's in a system where you want stability and reliability, I would probably avoid any RAM which isn't 100% Expo. I don't really think it's necessary. I'm actually tempted to buy some Corsair RAM myself just to see how much of a difference it makes. But it's really hard to know on the AM5 platform what is actually causing the problems. Like today I've ran 2 lots of memory tests on my RAM, single sticks and both in at the same time. I even got to the point of licking the RAM again. I know. And it seems at the moment, touch wood, is pretty stable, but that might not last. William Bodie, oh, the Star Wars figure. It came from Rick H, not George. At the moment, actually, I did look on Amazon today, and I think the Clev Kraz X Krav XR5 is on offer at the moment. You're looking at £88 for 32 gigs of DDR5 6000, and that is AMD compatible with Expo. I almost bought some. I probably will still buy some, just to make sure that my sticks in here, I've got the Kingston Fury X, and I've never been 100% about them. Weirdly, when I did the review of the Thermaltake DDR5 when it first came out, I had that in the system and it was really stable. Then I couldn't afford that RAM because it was about 200 quid in those days. So I spent, I think, about 120 on that stuff. And I've never been 100%. Every now and then, one of the sticks will actually, when I reboot the system, it will be a different color or just a single static color. Then I turn it off, reboot it, and it's fine. And I have found a couple of times the motherboard is actually booted up and it says that the MSI RGB firmware is corrupted and it needs to be reflashed, and it won't let me reflash it. So I turn it off, turn it back on again, and if the RAM light comes on okay, I don't get that error message. So whether it's the RAM, whether it's the AM5 platform, it's not the motherboard, because it's happened on 3 motherboards now that I've swapped out. So it could be down to the RAM. I'm not entirely sure. So I would, yeah, I would probably go for stuff which is 100% AMD certified, if you possibly can. I think it makes sense. Poppy Dora, your tail's all over the thing.
Not a scratching post, is it? It's my chair. Look at this, Poppy Dora.
Freedom House 1984 says it could be how you have the training set up in motherboard. I wish it was that. I really do. I've set it to auto, I've set it to every time, I've set it to never, I've set it to high efficiency mode, I've tried it in Expo 1 and Expo 2 settings, so even reducing the settings down to DDR5 5200. I've tried at least 6 BIOSes, I think, on this board so far, and still getting issues. And I haven't had it yet where I've managed, or have I? I'm not sure if I've managed to get the RGB issue on the RAM to follow the sticks. It seems to be more the slot, but my memory is a little bit hazy because I went through so many different options. So I wish it was the memory training. I actually got to the point that for a long time it was fine, and I had memory training set to like the slowest, the fastest possible, and it was booting up in like 20 seconds. It was great, but then it started going a bit weird again. So I don't know whether there is an intermittent issue with one of the sticks of RAM. I did get it earlier. I was actually about to pull a stick of RAM out, and as I was pulling the stick out, it turned the PC on. So there's definitely something a little bit screwy there. Although I have had that happen with DDR3, 4 and DDR2, SDR, all sorts. So I know it can happen. If the power's on, you take a RAM stick out, potentially you can short something or send a weird signal so it turns the motherboard on, but it's rare that it happens, and it shouldn't happen. But it did happen, so yeah. Whether I've got a dodgy stick, I don't know. Something else we got to review. Going back to what I said earlier about some things from Thermaltake being a little bit more expensive than I would normally justify, this is definitely on that list. Do you really need a 1000 watt power supply? Potentially not. But if you do, you don't want to spend an absolute fortune, you can spend less of a fortune with their new GFA range. So this is, you've probably seen these before, Tough Power GF3. We've reviewed that before. I think we've done a couple of different versions of this. But this is the GFA range, which really confused me because when they said, oh, we'll send you one of these out so you can check out, see what you think. I was like, well, I've already done that. They're like, no, it's a GFA. It's like, well, what's the difference? Like, well, what do you think the difference is? It's like, oh God, we're playing games now, are we? I don't know. What is the difference? Basically, what they've done is they've used almost exactly the same specifications as the GF3, which is like a really high spec power supply. But the GFA is, I want to say budget, but it's not budget. Essentially what they've done is they've reduced the bill of materials. So you've still got Japanese caps in here, but they're just different Japanese caps. You've still got your 10-year warranty, which is awesome. But what they've put is now, they say it's the main Japanese, the main capacitor is Japanese. So potentially the other capacitors may or may not be Japanese. So that is the thing. They have reduced the bill of materials and you could argue possibly the quality of the other capacitors, but they're still putting a 10-year warranty on it. Because at first I was confused. I was thinking, well, the whole point of the Tough Power range is that it's got a 10-year warranty because they're like top tier. That is the point. So why would you reduce the quality? But from what I've been told and from what I can see from the brochure that they send to accompany this, by actually working a little bit smarter with the developers of the PCB and the components list, they've managed to save a little bit of money on some of the high expensive capacitors like the Rubicons, etc., and go with slightly cheaper versions without reducing the overall quality and still being able to give a 10-year warranty. So for me, this works. This works very well.
You could sing the theme tune of ABC
Yeah.
to whatever the letters were.
Colin Hilton says, Mike's Unboxing, Thermaltake have donated the 1200 watt power supply for Eva's build. Well,
You said it right.
she will not need a power supply in the foreseeable future. This thing's got an absolute ton of connectivity on it, and it's all fully modular, as you'd expect. Yeah, gold rated, high quality Japanese 105C main capacitor, flat cables, etc. You get obviously PCI Express Gen 5 compatibility. You also get five, count them, see, not Welsh, 5 of those, and yeah, 5 PCIe connectors, if I can actually get into it. Now this is the range which I look at myself, because personally for me, I think I would probably get maybe a 850 or 750, because realistically I don't go in for those like high-end graphics cards. And something which is carried over from this, from the original power supplies, the Tough Power range, especially the new versions, the GF Generation 3 versions, they do package these things up really well. So they've actually got the 2 times excursion limits as well. So you can have up to 2 times the power requirement on the PCI Express for the graphics card, and it won't kill the power supply and or your actual graphics card. So power excursions are the things which we're going to be looking out for in the coming months and years when it comes to graphics cards and computing in general. It seems that a lot of processors are doing that now. You get them where they spike up very momentarily to like ridiculous voltages or amperages and then kind of settle back down again. So it was like burst speeds, graphics cards especially. So that is the power excursion. So if your graphics card is rated, for argument's sake, 350 watts, this thing, if the graphics card says for a millisecond or two, I want 700 watts, it's like, cool, carry on, as you were, not a problem. Whereas lesser power supplies, or ones that are based on the previous PCI Express Gen 4 or ATX 2.1 and upwards, will struggle and potentially will have a blue screen or kernel 41 errors, which are an absolute pain in the ass to diagnose. But the whole point of PCI Express Gen 5 and also ATX 3.0 is to allow for power excursions. So very brief, tiny little millisecond excursions where the graphics card just goes nuts and draws as much power as it possibly can. It's designed to cope with that. So as it stands at the moment, we are using Thermaltake Tough power supplies in almost all of the PCs here in the Mike's Unboxing house. Kath, I don't think has. She's got a gold rated power supply, but I'm not sure which it is. I think it's a... Oh God, I can't think what it was.
Silverstone.
Silverstone. I think it's a Silverstone one from a long time ago.
That's Asby.
Thank you. Mine in there is the RGB version of this, but lower wattage. In the editing PC for the 13900K, that's the GF 1000. So yeah, I've got a lot of time for these power supplies. I don't normally like spending a lot of money on a power supply, but I think in some instances it actually does make sense. Whether or not you want to go as high a wattage as this, I don't know. I guess it's the market they're aiming these for, the high-end graphics cards. But I don't know. I think a kind of 750 to 850 watt should be enough for most people realistically. But if you want to go nuts and future-proof yourself, I suppose that's the thing. I probably rebuild my system probably once every year or two. Whereas I'm guessing there's a lot of people out there who will rebuild their PC probably 5 to 10 years and be quite happy with it. So going a little bit overkill and having something really high-end is going to serve them longer. So it's kind of like a worthwhile investment. I said this before actually in another video. You can either buy kind of like 40 or 50 pound power supplies and buy them every 1 or 2 years, or you can spend over £100 on something like this, and in theory it could last you like up to 10 years. Well, it's got a 10-year warranty. You may... European power plug, fail. Look at that. Now that is a proper bunch of cables. You've got your PCI Express Gen 5. Yeah, there's an absolute ton of cables there. Loads of PCIe ones, so if you don't want to use the new NVIDIA type power connector, you don't have to. There's enough power connectors in there to do almost SLI with a 6950 XT. You probably wouldn't want to do that, but potentially, if you feel the need, you can do it. So that's pretty cool. We do like ourselves a Thermaltake power supply. I wouldn't say they're the cheapest, and I wouldn't say they're the most expensive. They're in that kind of relatively comfortable middle ground with pretty decent products. Overall, yeah, very quiet, which is one of the things I also look at. They run pretty cool, at least seeming so. The Zero Smart fan, I've got a couple of the smaller SFX ones, and even those, the fans barely even turn on. But yeah, 10-year warranty, happy days. Those are going to be about 150, is it 149.99? I think there's 5 models of this. So there is 750, 850, 1050, 1200. I think there's a 15 or 1600 as well. We'll find out anyway. When I do the review, you will see. But yes, do like those a lot. Power supplies are a pretty boring thing, aren't they, really? But having a nice one is quite a reassuring thing to have. Especially at the moment when there is basically not a great deal on the market, especially in that kind of budget and low end range. You think if you're spending the best part of £50 on like an MSI 550 watt bronze, spend just over double that and you can get something of that kind of quality. It's kind of, they're almost making it so that it makes more sense to buy a higher end power supply. Anyway. Mark says, I like the idea of 12 volts only motherboard system and the GPU system Asus is trying out, where the GPU power comes directly from the motherboard slot. I like the idea of that, but I think the whole beauty of the PC ecosystem is the fact that it is pretty interchangeable. As soon as we start going 12 volt only and the motherboards where you connect everything on the back, or also graphics cards which take the power from the motherboard.
UK Miners Club's off.
Cheers UK Miners.
15 minutes a bit late.
it kind of takes away some of that flexibility, because then you've got the whole, well, does your motherboard allow it to be connected from the back? Does it allow it to connect to the front? Can your GPU connect on the motherboard? No, I don't have that motherboard. Ah, right, okay. So you know you can't have that board, or you can't have that GPU, you must have this one. So I think it just adds more complexity. I like the idea in principle, but I think it needs to be implemented in a more universal way, so that if your motherboard doesn't support it, you can still use the graphics card and it not be a problem. But yeah, anyway. Michael T, upsell situation. Yes, definitely. Stuart Cleary, wait, there's a 1600 watt PSU. Greta will not be happy. Greta won't care. She's too busy singing Kumbaya with her mates. Right, what else? Mark says, agreed, it needs to be ATX standard, not ASUS only. Yeah, I like it in the fact that they've done it, and it's like, it's a cool innovation, it's a good idea. The whole motherboards having connectivity on the back, until that becomes a standard across the board, excuse the pun, it's going to be really difficult to do. And you imagine there's so many cases on the market which are not going to be able to support those motherboards. So they're going to have a new standard for cases, a new standard for motherboards. And you look at the problems we're in at the moment, where we've only got AM4 and AM5. And even prior to that, when we had Intel and AMD, we'd still get people on the Discord and even in the YouTube comments looking at a B550 board and saying, will the Intel 12400K fit on this board? So if there's some people in the market which are having that kind of really basic fundamental issues of knowing what brands fit with what, you imagine when you throw in a whole new curveball, such as rear wired motherboards or motherboards supporting power supplies to graphics cards. I think it's just unnecessarily making things harder, and potentially even starting to divide up the PC ecosystem. There was a really cool time back in probably the late 90s, the very early 2000s, where we had the Super Socket 7 and the S370 socket, where you could buy a motherboard from pretty much any manufacturer and you could fit on there a Cyrix chip, an IBM chip, an AMD chip, or an Intel chip, and possibly there's another one. Did I say Cyrix? Yeah, I think I did. Basically, Super Socket 7 or Socket 7 was like about the closest we've got to a universal platform that there could be. And then Intel went along and did Slot 1. AMD did Socket 1. Yeah, Slot 1 for Intel, Socket 1 for AMD. So they went to that slot design. And that is when we had that segregation in the market. And since then, that's been a constant thing. So then you get AMD motherboards or you get Intel motherboards. It was really nice. Anyone who was around at that time when you were able to get like a 486 processor or a 586 processor or even 686 processor and stick it onto basically any motherboard from PC chips through MSI, ASRock, ASUS, well actually ASRock probably, no, ASRock were a thing then. Very early days for them. I think it was the G471 or G741. Some very early board with an Ali chipset. It was pretty horrendous. But anyway, it was a very good time. And it made life a little bit more interesting as well, because then you could manually change things like your front side bus for your processor, your voltages, manual overclocking, literally going into the motherboard and changing dip switches to get the best performance, and trying to overclock your 66 megahertz front side bus to 75 megahertz. And cool things like that. It was a very good time. It was very interesting. And basically any CPU cooler would kind of work pretty much across the board on any CPU. It was great times, very great times. But things have changed considerably. And the more that we see things like these different standards, the rear mounted motherboards, the GPU power coming from the motherboard, 12 volt VO, all of it is kind of just further diluting it. And you don't want to get to the point where we end up like the Apple Mac, where it's basically a closed system. I don't think any of us want it to go that way, but if we let them, it will go that way. And the enthusiast market will basically dry up and no longer be a thing, which I think will be a massive shame. And then we'll probably get to the point where we just end up being on kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Client devices. So basically your screen is literally just a screen and everything else is done from the cloud. I think that's not a particularly enjoyable place to be coming from. But that's my thoughts on it. Michael T says the days of 40 to 50% overclocks are gone. RIP Celeron 300A. Yes, funny enough, I think one of my first main standalone PC builds was with a Celeron 333 on an MSI 6119 board, I believe, which was using the Intel BX440 chipset, I think. God, it's yeah, it's a while back. That was a slot 1 board. And back then you could either get your slot 1 processor to slot straight in, if you bought an Intel, but they're also going over to the S370, which also works, but you can get an adapter card to put an S370 socketed chip into a slot. Wow. And that had jumpers on it as well. Those were the times.
It's a pullover, but thanks for noticing.
It is a pullover. Anyway, I think we have pretty much covered everything. What? Cav's like, yes. He stopped talking, the bloody fool. Yeah, anyway, I think that is going to wrap things up.
My donkey ain't got any back legs.
Cav's donkey has now got no hind legs whatsoever, so it's going to be doing the front crawl to get out until I start talking at it further, and those legs are removed as well. Yes, thank you all so much for joining us. Hopefully it hasn't been too boring or too much nonsense. I quite like these little live streams because it's kind of nice to meet up with you guys and take your questions, and it's excellent about yeah, that's right, thanks James. It's really nice to get a kind of feedback and see what your thoughts are. I don't want this to ever become an echo chamber. Ultimately, to some extent it will be, because obviously if you've come here to watch the channel, then you are going to be of a similar mindset, but I don't really want it to be that. So if you feel like you need to question anything we do or say, or you have a different view, then I would encourage you to make me aware of it. And to be honest with you, most of you know me very well enough and are quite happy to speak your minds and disagree on certain things, which I think is good, because we should all discuss these things. Yes. Anyway, thanks as always for joining us on this Saturday evening. Don't forget as well, if you do want to listen to this as a podcast, it should, in theory, be available on YouTube Music. So you can listen to the podcast. And to be honest, it's probably the better way of doing it, because it is quite long.
Is that just part of YouTube?
Yeah.
So you don't have to go anywhere else on it?
No, you can still go on YouTube. I think if you go...
Is it on the actual YouTube?
I'm not too sure. I need to look into more. I don't use YouTube Music myself because I don't really have the time to listen to podcasts. But a few of you have asked before and said, have you considered making it a podcast? And I kind of had, but I hadn't. So now it will be available as a podcast in podcast format. So yeah, some things will be lost on some listeners, but for others it'll be great because you can carry on mowing the grass or topping up your tan or doing your day's work, chopping up some wood, whatever you want to do, even feeding the chooks. You can do that all while listening to the stream. And I'm not sure how you'd interact with it. I don't think you can leave comments. Anyway, I digress. So thank you all very much. Yeah, that's going to wrap things up. Thanks for all your support, as always. All your super chats, your kindness, support, and yeah, your kind words about young Daisy. And also thanks for all helping out with Eva and the PC that we're doing there. We'll update that and we'll try and get some pictures and all that kind of stuff so you can kind of see what's going on, and the final PC build as well, which hopefully Colin's got firmly under control. But if not, we will jump to the rescue and help out there wherever we can. Anyway, thanks again. I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching. What do I do now? Oh yeah. I can click on clear. That's a start. And I've got to find the button.
Pay for music, apparently.
Is it not free?
Nick Brown says you pay for music.
The bastards. Oh, we may have to work on another. If anybody knows of a good outlet or somewhere where I can upload podcasts to easily, let me know.
I'm free.
I'm free. That's important. Let us know, and we'll try and upload it and see what needs to be done. Anyway, bless you all, and we'll see you in the next one. Ciao. What if I can just click on end stream up there? That might be easier than pressing that button, because then it'll say yeah immediately. Let's try that. So, how can I work out if this is going to do it on time? There's always a delay. Anyway, whatever. Speak to you later. Cheerio. Bye.